It is 10 o'clock, March Madness in full swing. Welcome in. This is Three-Man Front. Pat Conrad, Molly Landrum with you until 2 o'clock. So much to get into. Brackets galore. Controversy abound. North Carolina gets in the tournament. But the good news is 14 SEC teams make the tournament. That is an all-time record. We're going to talk to Martin Newton, who is a member of the NCAA Selection Committee. He's also the athletics director over at Samford University. He's going to join us coming up at 10:30. I was communicating with Martin yesterday as he was coming back to Birmingham from Carmel, Indiana. That's where they were meeting, and that's where they voted yesterday. So we'll talk to Martin Newton about that. Nick Kelly from AL.com covers the Alabama Crimson Tide. It was a disappointing weekend for the Tide up in Nashville as Florida flexed its muscles for the second time against the Tide. But Alabama still gets a number 2 seed. We'll talk to Nick Kelly coming up in just a little bit. And then Nathan King from Auburn Undercover, he will join us at 1 o'clock. It was a disappointing weekend for Auburn as they took it on the chin to the University of Tennessee, but Auburn still the overall number 1 seed. So we've got you covered wall to wall today. And as always, it being Reaction Monday, we welcome your calls at 1-800-239-WJOX. 205-834-9450 is the courtesy GMC text line. So Landrum, as the brackets came out yesterday, what was the glaring thing that stood out the most to you across the board?
Well, number one, no surprise, but the SEC getting 14 teams in, and there was some belief by some prior to the announcement that Texas still had not done enough, that Texas not be in the tournament. But I think some of the other big takeaways, I think Alabama, a favorable bracket, a favorable draw that they got. The SEC with most of the matchups didn't really think anybody. I think Texas A&M, they might have potentially gotten a really, really tough draw, the 13-4 there with Yale. But North Carolina getting in, and some of the teams that we had been told probably would get in because of their resume. And then when you start comparing resumes, they just don't match up. But all in all, if you're the SEC, and we're so used to seeing it night in, night out, you start looking at these, it's hard not to have a lot of SEC teams advancing because you think about the strength of the league, and outside of Duke and some other teams out there, there's just not that many potential matchups that I look at, no matter who it is, and say, well, yeah, there's SEC's going to take one on the chin there, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And Conrad, you were texting me as soon as the first brackets came out and North Carolina was listed, and you called it right real quick. You were like going, if North Carolina just got in, and if Texas isn't in, and if another SEC team doesn't get in and North Carolina gets in, this thing is going to be a mess.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for our friends up in West Virginia, our friends in Indiana. I'm sure they're kind of scratching their heads still after yesterday. And, we'll get into the circumstances of North Carolina and all that. But, yeah, I think that was the biggest surprise too. Even the bracketologists, kind of turning around and going, yeah, that's one that we didn't quite see coming because, again, that's a North Carolina team that had over a dozen opportunities this year to impress the committee and put a stamp on their resume. And outside of one win that they had over a UCLA team who we've talked about a lot this year for all the frustrations that they've had, that's really your only marquee win of the entire season. So, the UNC one was certainly a bit of a head scratcher, but I'm excited we get to watch them tomorrow night.
Yeah. Molly, how about you with the bracket that came out? What was the one thing that stood out to you, I guess, whether it was a surprise or a shock or all the above?
I think the biggest thing for me was the sheer amount of SEC teams. 14. I'm not going to lie. I was kind of sitting and watching the selection show like, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Kind of lost count.
5, 6, 7. Okay, wait. And it just kept going and going. It felt like it was never going to end. But yeah, to also what Conrad said, North Carolina, I was kind of sitting there scratching my head as well. And some of the seeding with the Big Ten teams, but of course I'm going to say that.
Yeah, so the SEC, they get 14 in, the Big Ten second most with 8. So the SEC blows by the previous record, which was 11 teams set by the Big East Conference back in 2011. You had 2 other circumstances where it was the Big Ten and the ACC had 9 teams selected. So Landrum, it's still amazing to think about where this conference has gone. I know we've talked about it incessantly, but you and I, we've covered this conference for a long time. And I really remember when we'd be sitting here going, man, if we can get 4 teams in, 5 teams, it's going to be pretty competitive. But to have 14 of the 16 teams make it is amazing.
It is amazing. And you just wonder if that trend continues. Not that we get 14 every year, but is the SEC from here on out in this era going to be in double digits? I have to believe they are, just because of the infusion of NIL dollars and where a lot of these programs are, and revenue sharing has something to do with that. But yeah, to have 14 teams in the tournament, never thought I'd see it, because growing up, it was the ACC. It was the Big East. Mm-hmm. It was the Big 12. And for that matter, the Pac-12. The SEC at one point might have been below some conferences at the mid-major level.
And let's just
as far as overall strength of basketball some years.
Yeah, and let's just be honest, and I know Coach Sanderson would obviously want to argue about this point, but it was really true. I mean, basketball season was something that we basically, between the months of January and mid-March, kind of filled the time before spring practice in football. I mean, and then from that point, it was absolutely kind of gave us something to talk about. But what has happened in this state of Alabama, where there are 10 Division I basketball teams that play in this state, 8 are playing postseason basketball. Only 2 did not make a tournament to extend their season. That just tells you how remarkable basketball is in the state of Alabama. Hopefully, with those 14 teams that the SEC just got in, it has been 13 years since the SEC has won a championship in men's basketball. 13 years. Now it's been 25 years since the Big Ten has won one. Isn't that crazy to think about?
Yeah.
2000 was the last year that the Big Ten won a national championship in basketball. So times are changing. So we'll see what happens. Bruce Pearl, overall #1 seed in America. That came down yesterday, even though Auburn had a short stay there in Nashville. But just like all the bracketeers, including our own Rocco Miller, they told us all along that the resume was just going to be too deep, too tight for Auburn to be knocked off that one line or the #1 overall seed. This is Bruce Pearl on his thoughts of the Tigers being #1 overall.
You know, for me, for us, we sort of feel like that makes us the regular season national champion. But it is a tournament sport, and we're 6 wins away from winning our first national championship. I'm very proud of the SEC. A historic year, 14 bids. It's just incredible. Proud of our league, proud of our coaches, their programs. An incredible week of basketball in Nashville that absolutely did not disappoint, which makes winning the championship of the regular season even more satisfying.
That was Bruce Pearl. If they don't get very far in the tournament, I'm not really sure. Will they give rings out to be the regular season national champions? No,
that clip's going to go double platinum, though. If
that was
Auburn,
a very unfortunate thing that he just said.
Yeah.
Regular season national champion. Yeah. No, I did not. Where do you want to start with Bruce Pearl? Because on Saturday, I thought that game versus Tennessee, it was not like Auburn came out and they decided we're just going to go through the motions. They played that game, but you knew that you were going to get that physical brand of basketball. And who was that more important to? Maybe it was Tennessee. And I don't think it's a bad thing that Auburn team got to go home on Saturday, rest, reset, and if you're Bruce Pearl, run the table. You got to win 6 games, but just start taking it in 2-game increments. You got to go to Lexington, win 2 games. I'm sure that with that coaching staff, you're looking at your potential matchup that you have with either St. Francis or Alabama State, but you're zoning in and you're zeroing in on the likes of Creighton and Louisville. And I know we'll get into seeding and then potentially those matchups and a little bit of blowback and outcry on social media after the bracket was revealed. But yeah, for Bruce Pearl, now it's a 6-game season, but really just a 2-game. Let's just make it through these 2 games, guys, is what he's got to be telling his team. And you got a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, I would think, heading into the tournament.
And one thing's for sure, I saw nobody going to Nashville and put it on cruise control. Well, I mean, that was one of the most competitive, if not the best SEC basketball tournament I think I've seen since I've been covering this league.
Yeah.
And it was wall to wall. It didn't matter what game it was. I mean, even when, it got out of hand between Florida and Alabama, I mean, I know they started moving some pieces around. Nate Oates did, and Grant Nelson was out, but it didn't seem like Alabama was just calling it in as well. So, I mean, everybody. I mean, Auburn was there to win the championship. So was Tennessee. So was Alabama. So was Florida, obviously. So goes without saying. Our good friend Ryan Hennessy from NBC 13, I sent him a text as soon as I heard him ask this question. Bravo to Ryan Hennessy. He asked the following question to Bruce Pearl about his team losing 3 of their last 4.
Coach, I asked Jen the same question. 3 of the last 4. Is this kind of a flush it, move forward? Is there panic at all? What do you look at with this?
Man, I'm really glad you asked me that question. We lost to Alabama, Tennessee, and at Texas A&M. Yeah, we're panicked. That's a real softball. We lost to some great teams. We lost the buzzer against Alabama. We had possessions here, so yeah, we're panicked. I can hardly wait till next weekend and start playing again. Just give me let's get to Sunday. Let's find out where we're going. Let's find out who we're playing, and let's get back to work. I'm looking forward, not back.
It was a fair question by Hennessy, and for Bruce, I don't know what was going on with Bruce at the time. Obviously, he was frustrated, but you caught Bruce in a mood. We don't see Bruce get that way very often. But yeah, I thought it was a fair question by Hennessy, and could he have phrased it differently? Maybe, but it was kind of a boilerplate question, and I didn't think it was unfair by any means. Bruce Pearl I think that there was something deeper there that maybe Bruce Pearl was taking out on Ryan with that question. I don't know what it was, though.
Well, maybe somebody had told Bruce Pearl before he walked out on the press conference that no team in the history of the NCAA basketball tournament has ever won a national championship when you've lost 3 of your last 4 games before the NCAA tournament starts. So maybe Kirk Sampson or maybe somebody in the SID office maybe whispered that to Bruce Pearl. And then when Ryan Hennessy asked the question, maybe that's why he started getting irritated. I did not find it to be a softball question. It was a legitimate question. Mm-hmm. Your team's lost 3 out of 4. You're the most dominant team in college basketball, but now all of a sudden your team has shown signs of warts. You got problems, and you've been exposed over the last couple of weeks. That's a legitimate question.
And he gave him the option. It was, hey, is this business as normal, or is it panic time? So he could have said, no, there's no panic on our team. I don't know. That was very uncharacteristic of Bruce. I've heard Bruce react that way, and it was actually during the postseason. You'll remember it. We don't have to cite specifically what was asked, where he really took exception to a certain question before they played North Carolina. And I think that was the Sweet 16 that they got North Carolina that year in their run to the Final Four. And there was a question he did not like, and he reacted in a very similar way. So who knows?
I just look at it like you probably don't answer the question that way if you're not a little worried about your team. So not saying he doesn't have a right to be frustrated.
Well, I mean, why would he be bubbling about losing 3 of the last 4 games?
No, and I agree with that. But to act like that was a stupid question by a reporter, it seems
it's a
like
legitimate question.
Yeah, it seems like you don't want to face the reality that your team is maybe not playing as good as they were at the beginning part of the season.
We talk about college football like that all the time towards the end, once you get to November. I mean, we talk about teams all the time, how you're trending one way or another. We just have not been used to seeing this Auburn team that had dominated the entire season for the exception of the last 2 weeks.
Right.
We're just so used to this team being a machine. I mean, that's a compliment.
Yeah.
They looked invincible earlier
to what
in the season,
Auburn.
yeah.
But,
no, and there's something, there's that swagger, and he said that mojo, it doesn't seem to be there on the court for whatever reason, and maybe that's just part of the grind, and maybe they can kind of use this as a reset. But yeah, look, and I said it prior to the start of the SEC tournament. If you're watching basketball right now and you don't wholeheartedly believe that Florida is the best team in the country with the best opportunity to win a national championship, you're not watching, or you just hate Florida.
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%.
Mm-hmm.
If Florida continues to play at and nobody's beating Florida, they continue to play at that level. No. Sorry. If you're a fan of another school, sorry. They got the dudes. And right now, that system and the way they match up with people, they are rolling.
Couldn't agree more. When we come back on 3-Man Front, we're going to open up the phone lines, 1-800-239-WJOX. What do you think about the brackets? We also got a Twitter poll question that we will get into. The Courtesy GMC text line, 205-834-9450. Martin Newton at the bottom of the hour from the NCAA Selection Committee. He's also the athletics director at Samford University. And we'll also hear from Nate Oates, what he had to say and what's the status of Grant Nelson, all that on this Reaction Monday. This is Jocks 94.5.
Well, you're walking through a city street, you could be in Peru, and you hear it.
It's a very special day for all my kinfolk all across the aisle. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone.
I thought about wishing you a happy St. Patty's Day, but I didn't know if that was okay.
Why would it not be okay?
I don't know. People are so sensitive these days. I don't want to.
You're just not going to bother me.
Okay. Well, happy St. Patty's Day.
How dare you? Why would you say that to me? Is it because I'm fair complected? Is that why?
Are you named after St. Patrick?
I am.
Are you?
And my son is named after St. Patrick.
Can you do any kind of dance?
Like an Irish jig?
Mm-hmm. Is that what they call it? Okay.
Yes.
Clogging.
more of a clogger than I am a
What about bagpipes?
no.
Do you have a kilt?
That's more of a Scottish thing.
Oh.
Well, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to offend you.
Sorry. Now that offended me.
Will you have your traditional potato dish?
Yes.
No, I'm just really stereotyping. Do you do potatoes? Does Leanne make something special for your St. Patty's Day feast?
Very much so. Be huge. But before we go any further and talk about Alabama, I want to congratulate a member of our team here on 3-Man Front. I get off the elevator today. I'll look up. I see a big mug of Conrad Van Order. Congratulations, Conrad Van Order, the Cumulus Media Employee of the Month. Congratulations.
Speech.
He has taken the title away from Justin Armstrong, and I am so very happy that it now belongs to one of us here at 3-Man Front. So congratulations, Conrad, Employee of the Month.
Little damage control by our management after the stinky fish
Yeah, I was about
thing.
to say, I think the fish kind of put me over the top.
Please don't sue, Conrad.
I will be honest, I did not vote for you. I'm just being honest. So, but I don't know how the
Pat voted for that guy that does signs on the first floor.
Oh,
Yes.
well, he does a great job.
That dude does a great job.
He does.
I love the smell.
I do
the
too. I
aroma.
love the smell.
Yeah, it
of
gets
the,
me
was
high.
that lamination or
Yes.
is that ink?
It's
It's a
fantastic.
combination. We ought to just go in there and do a show.
So has Paige got a special, when did you find out? Did they call you in? Did you like get a trophy, like a gift card to Shoney's? What did you get?
I got
Is
a
Shoney still
lovely congratulatory email as I was watching basketball on Friday night.
Did you?
Ooh.
And you didn't share it with your teammates.
No, well, I'm a modest guy, Pat. What can
You're
I say?
humble. Good for you.
I respect that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Man.
I guess I'm only employee of the month for half a month since it's March 17th now. Is that how that works?
When was that? Was that for you, the employee of the month for February?
I don't know. I guess so.
Or that you just killed it already the first couple weeks in March? and
That's
they
what
just
I
went
like to
ahead and-
think. I have such a head start on everyone in March that they're just go ahead and give the award to him now.
Every day if we were voting.
It's for February.
Oh, it's for February.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I'll be honest with you. I did not think you had a very good February. Now, January, I thought you were good. You were solid.
February was the day that he got here late one day, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it was.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not
That
that
is
we're-
kind of funny. The one time I think I've ever
Not
been
that we're
late-
keeping score,
The
but
one
there
time
was
I've
the
ever
show
been
that you
late.
got here 3 minutes late
I mean, what kind of a
because
prerequisites?
of traffic and
That's-
something to do with a haircut. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's because I got a haircut. My barber got delayed.
Oh. The show will go on.
Is your
even
barber
though it's-
Irish?
No, he's not.
Is he Scottish?
Sorry.
Well, congratulations, Conrad. That's huge.
Thank you. I appreciate
Paige
it.
got a big meal planned for you tonight.
I'm sure Bucky has something in the works.
Oh, so that's why Don Don invited you to the this afternoon's soiree, right? This was kind of to congratulate
Is
you.
he having something every day this week?
It's St. Patrick's Day. It's a big day.
He's having a good old St. Patty's Day celebration in Pelham.
Okay.
All right. We will be at Twin Peaks on Thursday and Friday this week. That's right, folks. We've just added Friday to our tour dates.
Wall to wall hoops.
That's right. Get the concert t-shirt this week. Thursday and Friday we'll be at Twin Peaks. So come on by.
This first show sold out.
Yes,
So we're coming back on Friday.
that's right. Standing room only. They're at Twin Peaks.
No, that's a lot of fun though. I really that's become a tradition for us.
Yes, me and
because
you have
we will
done.
we'll have listeners and we get there at 10. The doors open shortly thereafter, but we will have listeners there in the parking lot just coming up, and it's a
Yes.
great chance for us to interact. And who knows? We've seen it where some people's brackets have been absolutely destroyed after the first round of games. Remember McLaren a couple of years ago?
Oh, it was bad.
Who was his upset pick?
I forgot, but it was. He had a rough start. He went like 2-14 or something on the first day of the turn. It was bad.
Well, I thought last year I ended up winning our bracket
Yes, he did.
that we had, but
Last year was quite the year for you. You got
I-
a Masters green jacket.
I know.
You won the bracket.
I know.
I forgot about the green
it was
jacket.
fantastic.
Big year.
Mhm.
It was a big year. And
Mr. Trustful.
but after McNeese lost in the first round,
Yeah.
because I had McNeese going
Well,
pretty far.
that was both of us.
I think I did too.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
That's the problem. That's the problem with the SEC, though.
Yeah.
Is you watch some of these teams, you feel really, really good about these teams, and they get in tournament play, and it's a whole different deal. I hope that doesn't happen with the league that we have followed so closely all year.
Yeah.
Where they fall on their face.
Mm-hmm.
So Alabama's the number 2 seed in the tournament. Technically, I think they were one back of Tennessee. I think Tennessee was
They were the number 6 overall seed.
Right.
Yeah.
So Tennessee was number 5. Alabama was number 6. And the big question now is Grant Nelson. Is he going to be good to go this week? This is what Nate Oates had to say yesterday when he met with the media about Alabama's seeding, where they're going, and the future of Grant Nelson.
Yeah, so we're excited to be back in the NCAA tournament as a 2 seed. Obviously didn't play our best game last night, so we'll try to get the guys back going. We did and played our best game last year against Florida, though, in the SEC tournament, and bounced back, went on a 4-game winning streak to make a Final Four. So I've got confidence we can bounce back. We're hoping to get Grant back. He's going to see the knee specialist tomorrow morning and get a better idea of time frame on getting him back, but he is walking today, so just swollen, but hopefully he'll be back by the first round.
Watching the clips of the team watching the announcement, Grant Nelson had no brace on.
That's right.
And if you did a screen grab, which I did, and you enlarged it, you could tell it's bruised a little bit. Did not look really swollen.
No.
Bad. I'm not an orthopedic, and I'm not trying to be one of those internet guys that says one thing or another. I would be shocked if he played in first round.
Yeah.
But
do you need him against Robert Morris? You better hope you don't.
If you do, you got bigger problems. So next round, think so. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I would say the same thing that Bruce Pearl said about his guards would apply to Grant Nelson.
And it's funny, I can't leave it because I said something to Conrad about it. His range of motion test to determine if he can go. If he can raise his leg into the crane position.
The crane position, he's good to go.
Do you think that's what they do in the training room? All right, Grant, let's see your breath.
See the crane.
Kick.
No. Other leg.
It's still tender.
Yeah, coach. I don't know. He can do a half crane.
Well, one thing's for sure, Nate Oates, and I'll give him props about this. I hate to put more pressure on this Alabama roster and this Alabama team that was a preseason number 2 in America. This is what Nate Oates has to say about his team and the thoughts of them getting back to the Final Four.
I'm not just happy to be in the NCAA tournament right now. We need to make a run. Like, getting in the tournament's not good enough. Anything short of a Final Four would be disappointment in my opinion. That's what the expectation is.
Well, that is the expectation. I mean, when you've got a roster reportedly around $6.5 million and preseason number 2, it was a gauntlet towards the end of the season, but the type of talent that they have on this roster, for them not to be in the Final Four, kudos to him. I mean, for saying it out loud, because I know we're going to say it. Mm-hmm. Final Four bust.
Well, and the reality for Alabama is, and I mean, it's a similar reality for Auburn as well. You can maybe make an argument for them for Michigan State, but, outside of Duke and Alabama side of the tournament, you're not going to play a team that is up to snuff, in my opinion, with what you've just played with Tennessee, Florida twice, going to Auburn. You're going to have significantly easier matchups, at least on paper, through the Elite Eight right now. And that goes for a lot of SEC teams.
Well, and not saying that every SEC team or any SEC team is just happy to be there. We're going to get those same kind of comments from every single coach, but it is different with Alabama, with Auburn, with Tennessee. If you're a Florida fan, if you're a Kentucky fan, obviously, and some of those other schools, if you're an Ole Miss fan right now, I don't know what your expectations are going in as a 6 seed versus an 11 seed. If you're going to make a deep run, if you're a Missouri fan, yes, you've experienced success in the past, but you look back to last year and go, well, thank God. I mean, number one, we won a conference game. Number 2, we're back in the NCAA tournament. So expectations different for different teams in the SEC. But no, I think Nate Oates is right. And the expectation would be based on the bracket. Mm-hmm. And right now, if you're just looking at it, I think Alabama has an excellent opportunity to find themselves in an Elite Eight at the very least.
Speaking of the bracket, Molly, our poll question of the day had to deal with the bracket and who's got the easiest path.
Yeah, so for the easiest path, we gave you the top SEC teams. Obviously, we gave you Auburn, Alabama, Florida, and Tennessee. And right now, winning our poll question is Alabama with 40% of our voters, 33.3 voting for Florida, 17.1 saying Auburn, and only 9.6 voting for Tennessee.
All right. You can continue to vote at the 3-Man Front Twitter page. Coming up next on 3-Man Front, we will talk to one of the 13 that is on the committee that seeded and placed these teams in the tournament. Martin Newton, the athletics director at Samford University, he will join us next on 3-Man Front. You can sense a theme developing today. It is St. Patrick's Day.
Is this what you would listen to in your crib when you were
matter of fact, it is.
Going to sleep as a baby?
It is, very much so. Martin Newton, the athletics director at Samford University, he's going to join us momentarily. Also a member of the NCAA selection committee. We'll get his thoughts on what they did over the weekend and put it to bed as we now have a bracket.
Well, for flu, pollen, and allergy season, keep your home cleaner with Trane's Clean Effects Home Air Cleaner. It removes up to 99.9% of airborne particles, including those contributing to allergy and virus, and it's proven to be more effective than standard and HEPA air filters. So go and contact a Trane certified dealer for the Clean Effects Air Cleaner.
All right, joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline, he joined us about a month ago as this process, I mean, they've been at it the whole season, but we checked in about a month ago, and Martin Newton, the athletics director at Samford University, a member of the NCAA selection committee, joins us on 3-Man Front. Well, another one in the books. Martin, where would you put this one up? Was this one a little bit more tricky, difficult than years past, or just par for the course?
You know that they all have their unique challenges, right? Like last year, we had 5 bid stealers, which made it very challenging, especially those last couple of days as you're trying to do about 20 plus contingency brackets. This year's challenge, quite frankly, we only had 1 bid stealer, but this year's challenge was really separating, having a difficult time and a lot of discussion of separating those last 8 teams. And then there's also the challenge of having bigger leagues. You've got the SEC that has 16 teams. You've got the Big 10, the Big 12, the ACC that have, 16, 18 teams in their leagues. And then the SEC's dominance just throughout the year, not only in the non-conference, but within. So those all created unique challenges this year that were different from last year. Nonetheless, it was a lot of fun. And I think, to me, that's the main thing that you take out of this, is that we're literally sitting here. There's people that are upset. I get it, man. It's disappointing. But at the end of the day, man, we get to go watch a month full of really good basketball coming up.
Martin, I'm sure that you have been asked this more than once already, but I will ask you for our listeners and their benefit. North Carolina, why?
Well, it's we've got 12 people in the room. I will give Bubba Cunningham, the chair, a lot of credit. He cannot be a part of any of those conversations. And I will also say that the conspiracy stuff that's out there is just that. It's conspiracy stuff. It's like, is there somebody in the grassy knoll in Dallas? This was an 11-man vote. Bubba cannot vote. And they got enough votes to get in. A lot of conversation. Their metrics are really good. I mean, they're 36 in the net. They're 43 in the wins above bubble. 37 in non-conference wins above bubble, which that cut line is 5. You look at their results measures, they had an average of 45 in the results measures, which is really strong amongst all those bubble teams. To give you an example, some of the other bubble teams were in the 50s and even higher in some of the high 50s. Their predictive measures were excellent. They were 31.3 average in their predictive measures. So they're from a metrics standpoint, they were really good. What everybody points to, and I get it, is they have 1 win in quad 1. They were 1 for 12. They did not beat some teams that they needed to beat in quad 1. However, they were 8-0 in quad 2. So when you look at the total body, they deserve to be right there. Now, they were the last team in, and you can make the argument that there's some other teams that should have been in ahead of them, but you can also make the argument, as the committee did, that they should have been in. And so, again, it is what it is. We'll see how they do in the tournament. There's always going to be somebody that's going to get left out that's not happy, and there's always somebody that's going to go in that people aren't happy about. But I think at the end of the day, we've got a really nice 68-team bracket.
Martin, you told us about a month ago about this incredible, impressive, historic run by the Southeastern Conference, and it was awarded yesterday with 14 teams. My goodness, kind of blew past the old record that was set by the Big East Conference back in 2011. Talk about Texas, because I know Texas was one of the last 4 in, and they made the 14th SEC team, making it into the bracket.
Yeah, Texas was again, it was tricky because but it had to do with some of the quality wins that they did have. I mean, you look at who they beat. They had some really good wins against some really good teams that were ranked high in the bracket. So again, that was one of those decisions as you're looking at teams and trying to differentiate. They did some things to play themselves into the tournament, especially late. But again, what I try to do when I look at it, and I'm sure the other committee members are like this as well, I try to be as consistent as I can with what to me is important and why I chose this team to get in. But again, they had some very strong wins. I mean, they had wins over Kentucky. They had wins over Mississippi State, who was a tournament team. They had a win over Vanderbilt in the tournament, a win against Texas A&M. They were 2-3 against Texas A&M. So they had some really strong wins throughout the course of the year. Wins over Missouri, that was a tournament team, that would warrant them to be in the tournament.
And we talked about Oklahoma. Well, not specifically. I threw out their resume as kind of one of those blind teams the last time you joined us, and at that point, they were very, very pedestrian, I would say. And you look at their conference record and how they were playing at that time. but not so much those type of teams, Martin. Top 1, top 2 seeds compared to other years where you've been involved in those discussions. Was there a whole lot of gnashing of teeth on where teams would fit if there was a team that some people thought maybe in the room deserved to be a 2 seed, they got bumped down to a 3, or maybe number 1 overall seed? Compared to other years, was it relatively easy this year?
The number 1 seeds, as it relates to who was on that 1 seed line, was pretty easy. There was some conversation about the overall number 1 seed. Is Duke? Auburn kind of came in limping into the tournament, and Duke was just the opposite. They won the regular season and the conference championship, but they had 2 key players out in doing so. But if you looked at the body of work that Auburn has done over the course of this season, it's pretty clear, and it was clear to the committee that Auburn was the overall number 1 seed. And then there was some conversation about the 4th number 1 seed. Okay, should Tennessee beat Florida? Do they warrant to be scrubbed up and be on that 4th number 1 seed line? So there was a lot of conversation about that. But at the end of the day, those number 1 seeds stayed pretty consistent. And then as it relates to our job is to pick, and I keep reminding people, it's the 37 best teams, not the 37 most deserving teams. 31 are at large, so those are automatically in. Florida was going to be in because they won the at large regardless. But it's to pick the 37 best teams. And it doesn't matter about conference affiliation. It doesn't matter about conference record. If you feel like they're the best, and we talked about Oklahoma a month or so ago. Actually, I didn't. You brought them up. I just kind of, and you guessed that that's who we were talking about.
Right.
But they had a sub 500 conference record, but they were 13-0 in the non-conference against a very good schedule with wins over some really quality teams in the non-conference. And so, again, it's not about what you do within your league. It's not about where you finish in your league. It's picking the 37 best teams.
Martin Newton joins us. He is the Sanford AD, also a member of the NCAA Selection Committee. I want to ask you about those 14 teams that the SEC got in, because I understand that maybe the protocols and things that had been set forth in years previous, those have kind of had to be adjusted a little bit, because in the old days, right, Martin, that teams would not face another member of their own conference a little bit farther down the line, but some adjustments had to be made, especially this year with the SEC getting 14.
Yeah, really challenging as it got to the bracketing process. And the bracketing process is the last thing that you do. The first thing we do, obviously, is we select teams in the tournament. Then we go through a seeding process. And then as you get into bracketing and with all the different contingencies, really challenging. We've got a software program that they use where you try, first of all, from a geographical standpoint, after you've gotten the first 4 seed lines. So as you get the 4 number 1 seeds, and I think it's important to note that the overall number 1 seed gets the choice of where they want to go. Auburn chose to go to Lexington and then on to Atlanta should they be fortunate enough to win 2 games. So they got that choice. The year before, or 2 years ago, when Alabama was the overall number 1 seed, they got to choose to go to Birmingham. And so once you get those 4 seed lines in place, then it's really you want to try to stay geographically relevant if you can, but it was really challenging because now you've got teams that have played each other once or twice in the tournament or in the regular season, and that matters. So if an SEC team had played somebody twice, you want to avoid them playing or meeting again until at least the Sweet 16. But boy, it's really hard when you've got, 3 SEC teams maybe on one line, or you've got, for example, the Big Ten. We had 3 Big Ten teams in there, is I think in that 4 line that you had Purdue, Maryland, Purdue, Maryland, and Wisconsin right in that 3-4 line. So we had to try to figure out, okay, how they can't play each other in the next round. So it's really challenging, and that's where we had a lot of different movement. Nobody moved off the seed line though, and I think that's really important. is to keep people on their true seed line. But we did have to move some people to some geographic locations that were not as close to where they would like to be.
Well, and in some cases, and I'm sure that you heard a little bit, maybe not personally, but you heard some of the backlash, and maybe it was coming from Auburn fans, but people citing that Louisville being 70 miles away from Lexington and potentially having that crowd there. But I thought back to, you mentioned Birmingham just a couple of years ago. That was an Auburn team that had a lot of Auburn fans inside of Legacy Arena, and you had a top seed in Houston that had to be here and to play against that. I guess what I'm getting at is there's some of those things that you said logistically, it's just impossible to avoid.
Well, we all have short-term memories, right? I mean, I know I do. Look, at the end of the day, we had a lot of conversation about, Louisville being there. The other question is, okay, if it's not Louisville, then you're putting in more SEC teams into that region, just the way that the bracket worked out. And so, what's the lesser of two evils? You want to have to face a team maybe in the second round that you've already played, or would you rather? So and here's the thing I'll say. You mentioned it. You go back to a couple of years ago. Auburn was a 9 seed going to Birmingham. So not only was Houston the 1 seed, but they also had an 8 seed in Iowa who was at a distinct disadvantage. That's just part of the tournament. And again, I will tell you that Auburn they've got an unbelievable fan base. They will have as many, if not more, fans in Lexington, Kentucky than Louisville will, regardless of the 70-mile drive. I'll tell you the other thing is that when you look at the one advantage that Auburn does, they play in Rupp Arena. Both of those teams have played, but it's not like this is a site that Auburn never has gone to. They're familiar with Rupp Arena. They played in there. They had a big win in Rupp Arena this year. But those were long discussions within the committee that we had to really look at. And again, it played out the way it did. And I think Auburn being the overall number 1 seed and having that ability to go where their fans can get to is very important.
And based on what Keith Gill said yesterday, the vice chair, I assume that if UAB would have beaten Memphis yesterday, that all of a sudden North Carolina is not in the tournament.
That is correct. North Carolina was the last team in, and had UAB or had George Mason possibly been VCU, but they would not have been in. But they were absolutely the last team into the tournament, and so that, by way of Memphis winning that league, North Carolina was granted that last spot.
I know that it's taboo and no coaches are reaching out to you guys during the selection process. Do you get phone calls from coaches after it's all said and done where you kind of explain to them the rationale and the thought process?
Yeah, you do. You want to make sure that, especially those that may not have gotten in, you want to be able to call and let them know that, hey, this is why, and because again, these are tough decisions, and you're dealing with, and I will tell you this from a committee member standpoint, and not just mine, but all the committee members, we don't take these decisions lightly because these are student athletes, and not only student athletes, but the coaches and the staffs and the family. These are big decisions, and so you want to make sure you get them. That you make educated decisions, but knowing that somebody's going to be upset and somebody's going to be hurt. And there's a lot of, quite frankly, there's a lot of emotion in the room when it comes to, God, did we make the right decision? Would we put the right, but it's because we care. And it's not because there's any conspiracy theories or any, like this person over that person. That has nothing to do with it because you're affecting people's lives. So you want to get them right. But we make those phone calls. We'll reach out and say, hey, this was the reason why this team didn't get in, and try to explain as best you can.
Martin, I know your day job, the job that you do very well, the AD at Stanford University, Buckyball is going to continue playing on. Are you going to get an opportunity before you head off for NCAA duties? Or are you going to get a chance to go to Northern Virginia and watch George Mason and Sanford playing the NIT?
I wish I was. Unfortunately, I've got to go to Cleveland early Wednesday morning, and I would love to go see us play in the NIT. It's funny. Somebody asked me about the NIT last night as I was stuck in an airport in Atlanta, and I remember back when the NIT, and this wasn't too long ago, where there were teams that would make a decision whether they were going to play in the NIT or the NCAA tournament back in the 70s.
Yep.
Right. I mean, the NIT was a big deal. And you go even further back than that, where a lot of teams chose the NIT. It was more prestigious than the NCAA tournament. So for our team to be able to play in the NIT, as I told Bucky, to be able to put that banner up in this arena right after an NCAA, we'd rather it say NCAA, but to be able to put an NIT banner up is just a testament to what Bucky has done at this place. And we didn't quite make our goals this year, but to be able to play in the NIT and to be able to play postseason and having an opportunity with this group to continue to try to get better, I'm excited for him, and it's well-deserved for the job that he's done.
Martin Newton, Samford athletic director, and then once a year, in certain years, he is getting together with some of his cohorts, and they are deciding the field for the NCAA basketball tournament.
One last question. Didn't mean to interrupt you,
go
but
ahead.
since we do have Martin, quickly, Martin, any idea, or I'm not asking you to break news here, but in regards to an expanded field in the NCAA tournament, will there be some news one way or another on that, maybe towards the end of the tournament, Final Four, or is it going to be later this summer? Any idea on that?
Yeah, I think it would probably be later. I think there's still a lot of questions that come in. And again, I think I said to you guys earlier, you expand for the right reasons, right?
Sure.
It's principle over personality. And I think, we've got some things that we've got to continue to look at, the logistics of expansion from an expense standpoint. Do the expenses match does the revenue outweigh the expenses? Because it's, to add 4 more teams, now you're looking at 4 more charters. To add 8 more teams, you're looking at 8 more charters. You're looking at new sites. So we've just got to make sure that we do our due diligence and really study all the different variables as it relates to the expansion. And is it, does it diminish the student athlete experience, or can they continue to have a great student athlete experience? And so I think that decision will probably come later after the tournament as opposed to during the tournament. It's not an easy, again, it's kind of like those last teams in, right? It's just not an easy decision, one that can be made lightly. You got to put a lot of thought process into this.
Well, we appreciate the task that you and your colleagues and what you're charged with, and we appreciate it as college basketball fans because this is a magical time of year that is March Madness. Martin Newton, Samford Athletics Director, also a member of the NCAA Men's Basketball Tournament Selection Committee. Martin, thank you.
Guys, I appreciate you. Didn't tell me who you have in your Final Four, though. I haven't done my bracket yet, so I'm really anxious to see who you got in your Final Four.
I've got Florida for sure.
Yeah, I got Florida too.
Okay.
Yeah, Martin.
Over Auburn?
I'm I'm holding out on my other 3.
Okay.
I don't have my
the
bracket
only one
filled
you
out.
got in is Florida.
Yeah.
All right.
I feel really good about Florida.
Hey, enjoy Cleveland. I hear it's beautiful this time of year, Martin.
I appreciate it. Yeah, you guys have a great time. Appreciate all your coverage, man.
Hey, thanks, Martin.
Thanks, Martin.
Thank you very much.
Martin Newton, Samford Athletics Director on the Higginbotham Hotline. Some takeaways, your reaction as well. 3-Man Front Reaction Monday, Jocks 94.5.
Well, we are wrapping up hour one of three-man front here for you on this Reaction Monday, and we've been talking about the NCAA tournament, and quickly, we want to remind you that our $1 Million Bracket Challenge is back here at Jocks 94.5. If you pick a perfect bracket with us, you can win $1 million. If you pick 60 or more games correctly, you can win $10,000, plus one local winner with the best bracket is going to score a $250 gift card to Twin Peaks. For more information and to make your picks, just go visit us online at jocksfm.com and click on the $1 Million Bracket tab. Good luck from all of us here at Jocks 94.5.
Hour number one in the books. Hour number two straight ahead. We will talk. And then 12 o'clock hour to Nick Kelly. Also Nathan King later on in the show. This is Three Man Front. It is hour number two of Three Man Front. Thanks for tuning us in. It is St. Patrick's Day. I know many of you are already celebrating on a long, long lunch.
Oh, it gets real when you have a member of the NCAA Tournament Committee that comes on, and at the end of the interview, he goes, "All right, give me your final four."
It kind of put us on the spot there.
Well, I have not decided. I do feel really, really good about Florida being there, but the other three teams,
I do find it interesting that yesterday ESPN College Game Day, and I'm talking about the whole gang, all four of them, they predicted Alabama in the Elite Eight, Auburn in the Final Four, but none of them had Auburn winning the national championship.
Okay.
So did y'all go through, because I do this every year, right when the bracket comes out, I go and make one just boom, 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 just kind of a quick, what's my gut telling me, just to kind of get one out of the way.
I typically do that, but I have not done that yet.
Okay.
For whatever reason. I hope to spend some time later this afternoon.
On the CBS broadcast, I saw where former Villanova coach Jay Wright picked the Auburn Tigers
to win it all.
Yep.
Okay.
He said, I know they sputtered here, but they were the most consistent. And he said, I think they bookend it. Paraphrasing what he said.
Well, Seth Davis, he was ready to throw out all of his crazy predictions immediately.
Yeah, it was just funny hearing all the people react to it, whether it's on television or online, because you seem to have the group of people that go kind of wild with their predictions and a little, off the wall kind of stuff. And then you have, of course, some of your typical media people who, oh, well, not going to go out on a limb here, and their Final Four is all number 1 seeds, and their Elite 8 is all 1 and 2 seeds, and you're like, wow, you're really going out on a limb here with your predictions.
Well, and some of these conference tournaments can really skew your view of a team. You watch the team play throughout the course of a regular season, Pat, and then you see a team in one particular matchup against another tournament team, and that team does not look good, and then all of a sudden you throw out all of your previous your preconceived notions and your opinion that you had formulated about that team. You got to be careful not to be too knee jerk with some of these conference tournaments.
No, you're absolutely right. And just to always appreciate Martin Newton, just does an incredible job over there at Sanford. But him being able to join us, I was communicating with him yesterday afternoon as he was trying to get back to Birmingham, and just his honesty, the integrity, and just the whole selection committee. And we're going to spend a good bit of time this hour detailing a lot of the national outcry that is going on. And listen, we're not immune to this stuff because, I was one of the guys that was standing on top of this building yelling and screaming about the CFP and about why SMU should not have been in the CFP. So I can only imagine that in places like Morgantown, West Virginia, Bloomington, Indiana, a lot of people have questions today about North Carolina having a, 1 in 10 or 1 in 12?
1 in 12.
1 in 12
quad 1 record. They were 8-0 in quad 2, by the way.
8-0 in quad 2, and they had a good WAB number.
WAB is important.
Wins above bubble. Yep, we learned that this year. If there's anything I've learned about the net rankings and the selection process, it's WAB.
It's all about the WAB.
Honestly, had no idea what it meant prior to this season. How about Mandu? That is the top seed when it comes to getting your body in shape, feeling better about yourself. Mandu is in downtown Homewood. It's electrical muscle stimulation fitness. You're going to go in. They're going to put you in a specially designed suit, hook you up to a machine that sends electric pulses to different muscle groups, part of your body. How does Mandu work? Well, it's 15 minutes. That workout is 15 minutes. It can replace hours, 6 to 8 hours in a traditional strength training environment. The benefits of Mandu, the MS training, it can help you beyond weight loss and muscle building. There's so much more. If there's certain ailments that you deal with on a daily basis, Mandu can certainly benefit you. You want to talk about just anybody who's ever tried it. It's the 15 minutes, and it's the ease in fitting into your schedule, and they have tailor-made programs to fit all levels, all ages, men, women. Try them out. Mandu in downtown Homewood, MANDUU.com. Your first visit is free. They'll put you through the workout. I can almost guarantee you will love it. I can guarantee you're going to get results. Mandu, MANDUU.com. Tell them Landrum from Jocks 94.5 sent you.
So if you missed the interview we just had with Martin Newton, the athletics director at Sanford University, a member of the NCAA selection committee, you can go and download it in its entirety. He's some great information there. Questions that we asked him about North Carolina and Texas. Texas was one of the last 4 teams in, followed by Xavier, San Diego State, and the very last team in was the University of North Carolina. Keith Gill, who is the commissioner of the Sun Belt Conference, he was on all the shows yesterday afternoon, along with Bubba Cunningham. Now, Bubba Cunningham is the athletics director at the University of North Carolina. He's the chairperson, but any time that a conversation came up about North Carolina, he had to recuse himself, just like Ward Manuel had to recuse himself on the college football playoff committee, supposedly, when conversations were being had about the Big Ten or Michigan. Well, Keith Gill, he discussed this last night on CBS about the interesting scenario that developed between UAB and North Carolina.
And obviously, I'm going to defer that to Keith. But, all the policies and procedures were followed, and Keith can address exactly how North Carolina was discussed, because I was not in the room for any of that.
Yeah, thanks, Bubba. And Seth, I appreciate the question. As the vice chair, I managed all the conversations that we had about North Carolina, and we had quite a few. Our policies require the AD of any school to recuse themselves and actually leave the room for those discussions. And they're not allowed to participate in any vote as well. So we followed those, had lots of discussions about North Carolina. You know, Saturday night, we took our final vote, and we voted in 4 teams in the field on Saturday night, and we had a contingency vote. And the contingency vote, that was the last team in the field. And it was based on Memphis and UAB. If Memphis won that game, then that was going to free up a spot in the tournament, and that was going to be North Carolina. If UAB had won, then Memphis was going to be in the tournament, UAB would have been in the tournament, and North Carolina would have been the first team out. And so that process played out today. Memphis won, and that put North Carolina in the field.
So there you have it. You heard Bubba Cunningham say that everything was handled across the board, above the board, and you heard Keith Gill talking about the situation in which if UAB would have won yesterday, very disappointing. UAB had a lead at halftime, and they lost to Memphis. That UAB would have kept North Carolina out of the NCAA tournament. Well, you can only imagine that a lot of people, whether it's on sports talk radio or on national television, they quickly pounced on the fact that North Carolina had no business, in their opinion, being in the NCAA tournament. Here's John Rothstein, of course, from CBS Sports. This is what he had to say about North Carolina.
If the criteria for the NCAA tournament in terms of getting an at-large bid is to beat other NCAA tournament teams if you're on the bubble, how in the world could North Carolina get an at-large bid over Indiana and over West Virginia? Indiana, unlike North Carolina, has no quad 3 and 4 losses. Indiana went on the road to East Lansing and beat Michigan State, who's a 2 seed, and beat Purdue on its home floor, who is a 4 seed in this bracket. And Indiana did not get in the NCAA tournament. Then let's talk about West Virginia. West Virginia won a game at Allen Fieldhouse. West Virginia beat Gonzaga on a neutral court. It beat Arizona on a neutral court. It also beat Iowa State. And North Carolina is in over those 2 teams?
There you go. That was John Rothstein. And it did not end there. Jerry Palm, who was just on this program about 10 days ago, he joined us and he laid out scenario after scenario. You know, he was hell-bent that he did not think North Carolina was a team worthy of that conversation, and it did not stop yesterday. Here's Jerry Palm on CBS.
As far as I'm concerned, the committee missed North Carolina. There's just no case for them at all. In fact, I've been doing this a very long time, and no team that I've ever dealt with has so conclusively proven that they're not an NCAA tournament team and still made the field. It's not just the 1-12 record against quad 1 teams. It's that none of those quad 2 teams are giving them credit for. Those weren't tournament teams either. You know, it's almost like they wanted to show us a little bit of what an expanded tournament would look like. But it's just, I mean, Texas, if you want to put Texas in, that's fine. But I'll never see the case for North Carolina.
There you go. And Jerry has been doing it a long time. I think I've detailed that on the show. I've known Jerry since 1993. And listen, nobody does it as well as Jerry Palm does. And those comments right there, I mean, because Jerry's not one that's going to come out and just absolutely slam a program. That's not what he does. It leaves it up to people like me. But Jerry, some interesting and pointed comments about North Carolina. And listen, it did not stop there. John Wilner, who writes a syndicated column and articles on the West Coast. He works for the San Jose Mercury News, and it's syndicated throughout the West Coast. He went to Twitter, and he says, the Bubba Cunningham fiasco was an awful look for the committee and undermines faith in the integrity of the process. Both the NCAA tournament and the CFP must end the practice of ADs as chairs. Of course, Ward Manuel's presence helped the Big Ten last fall. People in West Virginia not happy. Just saw this come across moments ago. At 1 o'clock today, the governor of the state of West Virginia is announcing a lawsuit against the NCAA selection tournament committee.
You can thank the state of Florida for this. College football playoff, Florida State.
So the Mountaineers have been wronged, and their governor is going to get in front of a microphone at 1 o'clock today, and they are going to use all the power vested in him and the attorney general of the great state of West Virginia.
Call in Joe Manchin. Call in all the big guns.
And they're calling Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Call Nick. Call Jimbo Fisher. Call all the West Virginia. Call all the West Virginia boys home.
And Bobby Huggins is still there. They get in.
Well, it might be a problem for Bobby.
I'm just saying, if he was and there wasn't, the stuff, the baggage. But those are the conspiracy theories. It's either big name coach that is coaching a program, or is it name on jersey? Because there are some people you would never be able to convince that North Carolina did not get in because of name on jersey.
So, I mean, they were pretty. Ren Baker, who is the athletics director at West Virginia, he was very quick yesterday on social media. He says, "Heartbroken. I can't comprehend this team being left out. Our resume was better than several teams in the field, and it's a terrible travesty that we weren't included. I have so much appreciation for Coach DeVries, our coaching staff, and players. They deserve better." So that was Ren Baker, who is the athletics director at West Virginia. Coach DeVries, he went to social media. He said, "Obviously, we're extremely shocked, saddened, and disappointed with not being selected to the NCAA tournament. We strongly believe that we have a resume that is worthy of an NCAA tournament team." And now Governor Morrissey of West Virginia will announce at a press conference today at 1 o'clock legal action against the NCAA selection committee.
Sure that'll get the results they're looking for?
It will be the same results that the state of Florida had when Florida State wanted to sue the College Football Playoff Committee.
You mean they're not going to remove North Carolina and put West Virginia in the field?
They better hurry.
Ah.
If they're going to do that. If they're looking for an injunction, we'll see if they can get in front of a judge and get that done.
So I'm realizing this, that Patrick James Morrissey, the 37th governor of West Virginia, he just took office back on January 13th. And it said he campaigned across all 55 counties during his bid for governor, running to make West Virginia once again the shining state in the mountains.
Is he a Democrat or Republican or independent?
Does not say his affiliation here, but I will find out quickly.
I've just been told he's a Republican. Apparently, FSU Dave is personal friends with the governor of West Virginia.
Okay.
It's nice to know.
He beat Steve Williams in a landslide.
But he is a Republican.
Yeah, he's the first Republican elected to a first term since Arch A. Moore Jr. did it back in 1968.
How about this? He went to Rutgers, and when he was in law school at Rutgers, he was a tennis official. So that's how FSU Dave
makes sense.
Got to know him. Yeah, how about that? Small world.
It is. 800-239-WJOX, 205-834-9450. It is Reaction Monday. We like to get your reaction. Let's go to our friend Lee, who I'm sure is really excited about his Florida Gators. Hey, Lee.
Hey, yeah, and of course I am. And I will say this. I mean, I know I'm going to come across sounding like a total Florida Gator homer, but I will say I think they've got the best shot at winning the NCAA tournament simply because I think the Southeastern Conference tournament was more difficult than what the overall NCAA tournament is going to be. Because of what, like the 14 teams that are in there, every game was basically an upper tier NCAA tournament game, and Florida came out on top. That's why I think they've got the best shot at it.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out, but you can't deny, if you watch college basketball, that Florida is the best team in the country right now, based on what we've seen.
Well, the thing that I like about them is they haven't got just one player that they're relying on. They've got about 2 or 3 different players, Clayton and Richard and the rest of the team. They can all do it. They can all step up when necessary and when needed. You know, they don't have to rely on just one person. I think that might be the one place that Auburn, I mean, of course, Auburn has Janiah Broome, the best player in the nation, no doubt about that. But if he has an off night, you know, who else is going to step up to carry that team? Whereas with Florida, they've got a couple guys that can fill that role.
Well, and how they play in transition and getting up and down the floor is really impressive, and how they can score the basketball.
Well, also the fact is how hard they run throughout the whole entire game, how the patient they keep it at. They just wear everybody down. That's what they did. Alabama is an incredible team, but that's what they did to Alabama. That's what they eventually did to Tennessee to win it. They wore them down until they just Tennessee and Alabama didn't have anything left in the tank to keep up with Florida. That's why they won. That is their winning formula, and hopefully they'll be able to continue to do it in the tournament.
Lee, thank you very much. I guess, Pat, the thing that you worry about if you're a Florida fan right now is because now everyone is on board and saying they believe that you are the best team in the country and you've been reeling off these wins. You just won your conference tournament in the toughest conference in all the land. People arguing you should have been the number 1 overall seed. Now it's Todd Golden just keeping that hunger. But as far as favorable matchups on paper right now, yeah, Florida, you got to feel really good about your bracket.
Well, they're absolutely trending in the right direction. And just the way that they handled their business, they handled it at Neville Arena, they handled it at Coleman Coliseum, and what they did up at Bridgestone was extremely impressive. And like Landrum said in hour number 1, even if you do not follow college basketball, and let's just say you tuned in just the last 2 weeks, I don't think there's anybody in America would want to line up and play Florida right now.
No. Let's go to Dave. He's in Hoover. Hey, Dave, welcome in.
Yeah, guys. So here's my thing. I'm dabbling in AI a little bit in my job on LinkedIn a good bit. They send messages, what have you. But so I'm in my career too old to get started to get really deep into AI. But I think we need to. But I've been totally impressed with it. We need to can the CFPB, all the committees, put the formulas in the system, RPI, strength schedule, head-to-head, all that stuff. And then on Selection Sunday, we all just need to watch TV and have the group sitting there, all the guys sitting up there and just watch the big screen. And then they hit the button, and AI just starts popping in teams, right? Boom, 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 boom. Everybody's like, oh, my gosh, where'd that come from? That would be must-see TV to me because you're never going to get the biased opinions and all these homers and all these athletic directors like, the Big Ten this past year, they were hell-bent on making sure they got every single Big Ten team in there they could and whatever excuse they could use to do it. Am I not? Is that correct? You guys feel the same way?
I could see how you feel that way.
Listen, I had no problem. My biggest issue with the BCS back in the old days was the fact that it was only 2 teams. Like I wanted to have more teams involved. I have no problem with all this data being used because we can all say that, we have an unbiased opinion, but that's a lie. I mean, everyone is biased to a certain degree. And when you get behind closed doors, when you have Ward Manuel, what happens if half the group in the CFP were good friends with Ward Manuel and they want to give, obviously, the Big Ten the benefit of the doubt or the fact that they like Bubba Cunningham because all indications are he's a really good guy. I mean, all of a sudden, you're going to give his team the benefit of the doubt. He could recuse himself all day long, but if people on that committee have a bias towards him or his program, then all of a sudden that could react unfavorably to someone like a West Virginia or Indiana. So I'm like you, Dave. I have no problem with using AI or using the data that we all have access to.
But that committee didn't do that. They have the numbers. They plugged the numbers in, but at the end of the day, they didn't go solely by the numbers.
Correct.
They still let the human element decide who was in and who was out.
Yeah, eye test still comes in because remember, he stated it not once, but multiple times. It's not best, or it's not most deserving. It's best.
Right. And that's where the eye test comes in.
Yeah, right. Exactly. All right, guys.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Happy hooping.
All right, and listen, I mean, we talked about it incessantly during the college football playoff. Just you have transparency. These are the numbers. This is what we're going to use to put in. I don't care whether you live in the basement of your parents and you're 55 years old or you're a mathematician at MIT. If you've got the data and you can do it and produce it, I have no problem as long as it's transparent for you to use that data to give you the end result, which would be hopefully a competitive CFP or an NCAA tournament.
But it goes back to football too. I don't want it all being data and computer driven. I do want the human element in there.
But I think we've proven
as a
that
fail safe, but I don't want all human element with no data.
Well, I mean, that's where the other problem with the CFP is that they just were not transparent with the data that they were using.
Yes.
I understand where you're coming from, where you'd like to have that safeguard or checks and balances, but it's just a situation where they did not tell us, okay, we're going to use a strength of schedule and we're going to pay a company to give us the data, but you do not have access to the data. Sorry. So you're just going to have to believe us.
Right.
We're going to be behind closed doors. And because SMU's got this strength of schedule and Alabama and Ole Miss and South Carolina have this, you're just going to have to trust us. No, that's not the way it works. All right, more three-man front on this Reaction Monday. This is Jocks 94.5. It is 11:24, Jocks 94.5 on this St. Patrick's Day. Haven't heard you two yet. Don't know why, but
We're getting there, Pat.
Sinead O'Connor.
yeah, the Coors. There's a lot of good Irish.
You didn't think about Sinead O'Connor, did you?
I did not.
Yeah.
Or the Coors. Did you think about the Coors?
No, I didn't.
Man,
Sorry.
what's wrong with you?
I'll play a little Nothing Compares to You next. Don't worry. We'll get all emotional up here.
Nothing compares to you.
Well, you know, we had a rough weekend weather-wise, and now is the time that you need to call Golston Tree Service because they're certified arborists. They can come to your home and they can give you a detailed plan in which they can help knock out all of those troubled trees or those limbs that want to hang over your deck or your house that could, you know, have a problem down the road when we have these bad spring storms that we're going to start having here in the Metro Birmingham area. Golston Tree Service, they also offer that 24-hour emergency storm service, 205-337-4018. No job is too big or too small for Golston Tree Service. They grind the stump, they roots out, they haul out the last twig, complete tree removal. They've taken out 3 or 4 trees on my property. Let them come and take a look at what you've got going on, and they can help you immediately. 205-337-4018. That is Golston Tree Service.
We continue. It's Reaction Monday, reacting to the tournament bracket, who's in, who's out, where they're seated, where they're going. Let's go to PG. He's got to be excited about his Gator basketball team. Hey, PG, welcome in.
Top of the morning, guys. It's a great Irish day for us Irish people.
How are you, PG?
Oh man, I'm happy. I'm a happy camper. Of course, storms. I'm glad everybody's okay for the storms. We got a little scared down, close to Clear, getting up here towards Pelham. Got a little scared of that tornado, but everybody's okay. So that's good news. Guys, anybody enjoyed the tournament, especially beating Tennessee? God, I love when we beat Tennessee or Georgia. It's just a beautiful day. I was gonna say, this bracket we're in, I don't know what you guys think of, if it's a real tough bracket, but we see St. John's, we see UConn, we see St. Missouri again, and then there's Grand Canyon. There's some teams that scare me a little bit in this bracket, and with Tino and St. John's is a little scary too. Some people have even predicted them they could win the West bracket. What do you guys think? How do you think our chances look better in that bracket than being in another bracket?
Well, I tell you what, that is an interesting round 2 matchup, whether it's UConn or Oklahoma. I know that Oklahoma got a lot of love last night on a lot of the post shows. I think UConn is playing its best basketball right now. Not saying that UConn is going to win their 3rd straight national championship, but it's still UConn, and they have a lot of really good players. Now, the kind of style that Florida has, it does not benefit UConn at all. I think Oklahoma would probably give Florida more of a ball game because Oklahoma has seen it, this year in the SEC. So that is an interesting matchup. Outside of that, I've been very impressed with Maryland. I know Maryland lost in the Big Ten tournament, but that is a team over the course of the last 3 to 4 weeks that has played really, really good basketball. Matter of fact, I think, and Conrad, you can check me on this, but I think most of their losses for Maryland was with under 4 or 5 points this season. They're a team that was in every ball game, and the ones they did lose, they did not lose, but only by a possession or 2. So that's another team that I would be very weary of if I'm Florida.
And if you're looking at potentially down the road that Memphis Colorado State 5-12 matchup. Know that Colorado State, they're singing those praises as well. I think Florida, the biggest thing is, and we've seen them have those off nights, and some they've gotten by every college basketball team and won the game. But is it going to be one of those where you just come out and you can't figure out if it's Walter Clayton, can't hit the side of a barn, Florida's out of sync, and then you get a UConn team that is firing on also, because we know they have players.
Yeah.
And we know that they're going to be prepared if they get to that matchup. But, yeah, man, you talk about playing not with house money, because now you're the expected. It's the team that everybody is right now putting as their favorite. Most people are to win it. But, PG, you got to feel really good about Ty Golden and the way the Gators are playing.
Yeah, I didn't think about Memphis. God, I forgot about they're in it. I got to give you some kudos, Landrum, you and your wife. I was watching Streaming Church yesterday, and Lord, y'all gave a great video.
Oh,
about the year.
I know what you're
being
talking
there.
about. Yeah, that was yes. Well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that was awesome. And I just want to shout out to Pastor Jeremy. New church coming, baby.
Amen.
All right, guys. Y'all take care. Great day. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, we'll see you, PG. Thanks for calling.
Quickly on Pat's point about Maryland, they've lost 8 games this year. Their biggest loss this year was by 6 points. Their worst loss.
So that is why you were Employee of the Month, is because of finding that information and giving me a compliment. I feel bad now that I didn't vote for you for Employee of the Month.
Now there's always next month.
Oh, you maybe 2-time?
I'm going
Back to
Stallions back to back to back.
That's got to be brutal on the fan base, though, right? All by 6 points or less.
I was about to say, my dad is a big Maryland fan. It's been
Every time
that Michigan loss was rough the other day.
Every time I've watched them,
They're good.
I've been thoroughly impressed by them. That is a team that I don't want any part of in the bracket.
They're very good.
Let's go to Brandon. He's in Leeds. Hey, Brandon, welcome in.
Hey, so first of all, I did make amends to Conrad for the Stinky Fish Challenge, even though I did say that I would donate to charity. And I understand there's, some complexity to that. But I did want to talk to you guys about the Alabama draw. I see them getting to Duke, and then basically if Cooper Flag is healthy at that point. But I do see that Alabama falls to Duke, and I'm a big Bama fan. So what do you guys think about that? And I'll hang up and listen. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Just my opinion, but as I'm looking at the bracket, the one area that I find Alabama having problems with this year has been teams that have really big power forwards, guys that really give them problems. And based on what I see in the bracket, I don't see anybody that could potentially give Alabama heartburn until you get to Duke. I think that's why the majority of people have Alabama in the Elite Eight. Y'all agree with that, or do y'all see a problem with that philosophy?
I agree with what you're saying mostly. I think if you were to look at a team before Duke, maybe Wisconsin
possibly
would be the one that would make you sweat a little bit.
I mean, St. Mary's could, just because of their style. Now, the last time we saw them, it was not a good outing.
No.
It was gross in that championship game appearance versus
What if
Gonzaga.
Vanderbilt were to knock them out in the second round?
Don't know.
Diego Pavia is sitting behind the Vanderbilt bench as they're playing Alabama.
I've already had that thought.
It's going to have to be, though, I think the approach that Chris Beard and Ole Miss had when they went into Coleman Coliseum is you go out, it's just you're going to play physical, make it an ugly game. Don't give them any easy looks, just Velcro. And you hope that Alabama's having one of those nights where they're careless with the basketball, or one of those afternoons. I don't see it. I think Alabama got a very favorable draw. That's why going in, it was, 1 or 2. And Chris Stewart told us on the show last week when he joined us courtesy of Craneworks, he said, in some scenarios, you look at number 2, it might be more favorable for Alabama, whether it's geography, whether it's bracket. Yeah, Alabama, you got to be happy if you're an Alabama fan right now, just based on if chalk holds and potential matchups. The path does not look that daunting.
40% of our audience right now at our Twitter poll question of the day: who has the easier path to the Final Four, Auburn, Alabama, Florida, or Tennessee? 40% of you right now say Alabama has got the easiest route to the Final Four. More three-man front on this Reaction Monday. More of your calls, your text messages as well. 205-834-9450 on the courtesy GMC text line. Happy St. Patrick's Day. A little Sinead O'Connor.
She made bald beautiful.
She did.
I used to get her confused with the Susan Powder lady, the lady that would do the really excited about losing weight videos. But she had like short, bleach blonde, spiky hair. Sinead had no hair. Sinead was controversial back in the day, Conrad. I don't know if you remember
Was she?
Hearing about it.
Yeah, she did something on Saturday Night Live that was not something that was looked upon.
Not great?
No, it wasn't. You know who wrote that song, don't you?
Not her. I don't know who wrote that song.
Prince.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of hear it.
Okay. It's a great song. It is the only song by her that I know.
Well, nothing compares to Dobbs Ford right there on Parkway East in Birmingham. Dobbs Ford, it is the Ford dealership that you need to turn to when it comes to customer service and inventory. Alabama's largest showroom selection, Joey and Rachel Goshen, their entire staff there at Dobbs Ford, they're going to take care of you. Total transparency, no hassle approach. They'll beat any competitor's price. F-150s, Broncos, Mustangs, Bronco Sports, Escapes, Explorers. Also a great pre-owned selection as well. It's Dobbs Ford. Go see and feel the difference there at Dobbs Ford, Parkway East in Birmingham, dobbsfordbirmingham.com. And when you talk to them, make sure you tell them Landrum from Jocks 94.5 sent you.
Well, there were a lot of people outside the state of Alabama that was rooting for the UAB Blazers yesterday because y'all knew that if UAB could steal another bid from the American Athletic Conference, that was going to put someone like North Carolina in harm's way of getting into the tournament. It looked good at halftime. The Blazers led Memphis 35-32, but then the second half happened. The Blazers shot 29% in the second half. They were outscored 52-37. Lindeborg finishes with 19 points, 17 rebounds, 4 assists, his 23rd double-double of the season. That is tied for the most in the country when it comes to double-doubles. He surpassed the single-season program record for rebounds in a single season. He reached 375 rebounds this year. Just stupid, incredible numbers for Yaxel Lindeborg. Ephraim Butta Johnson, he finished with 17 points, 6 rebounds, 3 steals. Unfortunately, too much Memphis there. Man, their bigs down low just caused all sorts of havoc there in the second half. So Memphis wins 84-72. They march on to the NCAA tournament. All is not lost for the Blazers last night. They were given the opportunity to extend their season, and they accepted. The Blazers are 22-12 on the year. They were invited to play in the National Invitational Tournament. So is Samford. So is North Alabama. So is Jacksonville State. So we've got 4 teams from the state of Alabama that will play in the NIT. St. Joseph's, they are 22-12, the exact same record as UAB. UAB 1-0 all time against the Hawks there from Philadelphia.
You know, watching that game yesterday, it was Memphis that came out, and they haven't been great at taking care of the basketball all year, Pat. But early in that game, they were making mistakes. The problem was UAB was answering with their own mistakes. They couldn't get those points off of turnovers. But I will give Penny Hardaway and that team credit. In the second half, when the game was still in doubt and it was in question, it looked like they kind of flipped the switch and they decided they were going to start playing really focused basketball. And that's what they did down the stretch, not having Hunter available. But I thought Rogers, he had some big threes. Dane Danger was
danger.
He was a dangerous man yesterday. That was a heck of a one-on-one that you had
and when he went to coast to coast
and Yaks going, back and forth. That was something else. But no, congratulations. At least UAB, you're playing more basketball. And we know that they made NIT tournament runs before.
They did. They got to the championship game a couple of years ago. They lost to North Texas, another member of the American Athletic Conference. So UAB will continue on. They will play at 6:00 on Wednesday night. Also, word out of Dallas, this was the final year of the American Athletic Conference playing at Dickies Arena. And so stories started percolating. I tweeted it out last night that Birmingham is one of 4 possible sites that is interested in having the women's and men's basketball tournament from the AAC played in our vicinity. The others is Wichita, Kansas. You got Memphis. Now, Memphis does not want the women's tournament. They just want the men's tournament. And the conference, almost said Conference USA. The American Athletic Conference is not going to split it up. So Memphis is out. Birmingham, Tampa, South Florida, they all want the women and the men's tournament. I think Birmingham stands an excellent shot at getting both. And the reason why is the centralized location of Birmingham. I just can't see them. A lot of people can get to Dallas pretty quickly, for a tournament because of obviously that being one of the hubs in the country airline wise. Playing all the way in Tampa, you want to talk about drawing flies. That's no good. So I think Birmingham stands an excellent shot of hosting next year's American Athletic Conference championships for the women and the men. So we'll see what happens. Also, Jacksonville, Florida they've put in a bid for the tournament, but the commissioner of the AAC has said that they're going to stick to the 4 cities that are members of the conference. So Jacksonville is,
I feel like Birmingham
out.
Probably, yeah. And that's not just being biased. You've not that those other cities don't, but as far as hosting tournaments, when it comes to basketball, legacy.
You got the women's regional finals is playing in Birmingham this year.
Yeah.
We hosted the NCAAs a couple of years
Hotels, entertainment, all of that. It's all condensed into one. It's not a logistical nightmare. Bring it to Birmingham.
Yeah. So hopefully that will take place. Dickies Arena has been a great spot.
Yeah.
I think they announced 5,100 yesterday for the championship game.
Okay.
And the majority of those were Memphis fans.
Memphis fans, they like to dress up. Did you see the guy on the Tiger Blazer?
Yeah, I mean, Memphis, they always traveled. Their basketball program it's phenomenal what they do. So hopefully Birmingham will be able to get the tournament next year. I think that would be a nice feather in the cap on a brand new legacy arena. Because the last time, the AAC or actually Conference USA came here, they played at the old BJCC before all that work was done. Speaking of work, if you're a homeowner and you're noticing things around your house, like your doors are not closing properly, you can't get your windows open, or you notice some cracking in your sheetrock, you might have a bigger problem on the horizon. That's why you need to call Alabama Professional Services at 205-951-9717. Go to their website, alabamaprofessional.com, and they're going to lay out on the website everything, all the services that they can provide you as a homeowner, because we all know that the largest investment you're ever going to make is going to be your home. And when you start seeing those little issues around your house, those problems aren't going to go away over time. They're going to get worse. So that's why APS can send one of their trained professionals to your house. They can take a look at your foundation, your sinking driveway, all those things that they can take care of, because they've got the poly-level system. It's quick, clean. It will look fantastic when they get through with that. They can fix those cracks in your patio and, of course, those in your wall, or encapsulate your crawl space in your basement. Alabama Professional Services, alabamaprofessional.com. The website is 205-951-9717.
Your text, first time we've gotten to the text line, we'll get to those, 205-834-9450. Plenty of college basketball news, tournament news you need to know as we continue. Three-man front and Jocks, 94.5. Everybody.
Go, on.
Can't hit that note.
Me restless, okay.
Is this one of those guilty pleasure songs you don't want anybody to see you singing, but everybody kind of knows it?
We were just singing it.
We kind of knows it. Yeah. I want to interrupt the chorus there.
Yeah, the Coors family.
Yeah.
Not the beer family.
Oh, not the same.
No, this is
different.
Complete different family. They're on the other side of the world in Ireland.
You think they'll knock down some lagers?
Some Guinness?
Some Guinness?
Probably.
We'll get to your text on the text line, 205-834-9450. How about our friends at Mystic Beverage, mysticbeverage.com? They're made right here in the state of Alabama in Blount County, to be exact. But I tell you about the Lift Blend that is my go-to. And that's got the CBD, the CBG, the Delta 9, the green coffee bean extract. It boosts both your body and your mind. So if you want to be focused, you got a lot going on, it's late in the day, you need to pick me up, or you just don't feel like coffee that day, that is a great alternative to coffee, the Lift Blend. But I was telling Pat during the break, I went with a High Hills Delta 9. On Saturday, we had the threat of severe weather, and it was downstairs, and we had my sister and her husband and their two small boys. They came over to take shelter, and I enjoyed some of those just sitting there watching basketball. And they're delicious as well. Whether it's the High Hills Delta 9, available in the 5 milligram, the 15 milligram for the balance and elevated high. The Nirvanic, the 25 milligram Delta 8, is a smooth, calming experience, perfect for unwinding. You have the Broadway, the broad spectrum CBD with the Delta 9 for the comprehensive wellness boost. It is a great alcohol alternative. It's available in 4 different flavors. You got blood orange, southern berry, mango, and watermelon. Mystic Beverage. Find them at your local Piggly Wiggly. Go to mysticbeverage.com for more information.
1-800-239-WJOS. Let's go to Don next, who joins us on Three Man Front. Good morning, Don. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Hey, fellas. How's everybody doing on a Monday?
It's St. Patrick's Day, man. We're great.
Yes, sir, buddy. I'm dressed in all green today, Pat, and everything. But Pat, Landrum, Conrad, I need your help because y'all know where I'm going tomorrow. Pat, the 2 games tomorrow night. Do you have the lines yet?
Do I have the lines yet? What do you take me for, Don?
Well, I knew you would. That's why I asked you.
I mean, my goodness. I mean, come on. Now, do I have a selection yet? Of course not.
Don, have you packed for your trip?
I need. I always give you my picks, and you and Landrum always go the other way, and I'm quite lucky for you. So I need you and Landrum and Conrad's picks on the game tomorrow.
Let me tell you something. I'm not going to go against our brethren down in Montgomery, Alabama, the Alabama State Hornets, getting into the tournament playing St. Francis. I've actually seen St. Francis play a few times. Actually won a couple of shillings off of St. Francis, Pennsylvania.
I saw them play one game, and it was a game that they won in their conference championship.
Yeah. That was it? That was the only one you saw?
That was it.
Okay. Alabama State's a 3.5-point favorite, Don. I like the Hornets in that one.
All right, well, there you go. There's my first bet. And what's the is it Carolina play tomorrow night or Texas?
Tomorrow's Carolina and San Diego State.
Yeah, that is a 4-point spread for the Tar Heels.
Okay, well, I just don't, Pat, I know you guys are going to agree with me, Landrum. There's no way they should be in at 1-10. They got it because the name on their jersey, okay?
Mm-hmm. Well,
they're 1-10 in quality one games. And
no, they're
1-12. Sorry, Conrad. Don.
Oh. Well, there you go. Well, what's West Virginia?
It was the O in the end that threw me off. West Virginia.
I see the similarities. I know exactly what you're talking about.
What was West Virginia? They were better than that. I can tell you that. I will pull it up for you momentarily.
Are you talking about West Virginia?
Yeah.
Okay.
West Virginia in quad ones, they were 6-10.
Well, there you go. Also, too, I wasn't able to listen yesterday on the selection show. Didn't they say something that if UAB would have won, North Carolina would have been out?
That is correct.
Yes. During the broadcast, they were trying to say that Xavier would have been out. They had, was it Lenardi that came in? It was during the UAB game that they had said Xavier is that team where, UAB and how they do that. That will dictate what they do. But it ended up being North Carolina, as we heard from Martin Newton, who was in that room.
Okay. Well, fellas, I will call. I'm gonna try to call y'all. Probably on Thursday and everything. When do you have your guy that gives you picks, Landrum?
JR should be coming on. I'm trying to confirm. It'll be either Thursday or Friday.
And Brian Edwards will join us on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
So Brian's on Wednesday at 10:45.
Well, you know, I got the Jocks app on my phone, guys, so I can listen. While
Where are you going again?
He's
I
going to
asked you if
Biloxi.
you had already packed, and you didn't answer. But that's fine.
My car. Hey, my car is packed and ready to go. I'm staying with my buddies, and we're leaving early in the morning. And Conrad, to tell you, I invited the whole crew to everything that we're going today. Me and PG and several other people. We're going on a little pub crawl this afternoon, and I can't say the first place because y'all have another sponsor that I don't want to do that. But Conrad's got it. He knows all the plans we got doing, and all you guys are invited. I know y'all got stuff to do after work, but we'd love to have you. Me and PG and several people are doing a little pub crawl today.
Hey, hold on a second. Let me ask you this. Are you coming back for our Twin Peaks remotes on Thursday and Friday? We just announced that we're doing it on Friday as well. 2 days of Twin Peaks.
Yeah. No, sir. Pat, I'm not coming back till Sunday. And if we're staying at the Landrum, we're staying at Harrah's and Biloxi.
Oh, yeah. Landrum goes there a lot. Yeah, he likes that place.
See, the reason why we could have gone and stayed and get free rooms in Vegas, but the Vegas flight this year was $1,100 a person.
Oh, my goodness. Well, listen, Don, Molly wanted me to tell you have a safe trip. She's worried about you going down there, so be careful.
Well, I'll be fine. But, hey, Lander, by the way, on the last year, I did call y'all from Vegas during March Madness. I was in Savannah in July when I was on the golf.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, I mixed up your trips.
Guys,
You're such a traveler.
Hey, I'm gonna try. Hey, Pat. One quick question. What would be a good time for me to call to tell everybody hey tomorrow?
2:05 is usually a good time. I'm just kidding. I'm teasing.
No, anytime's fine.
So
Hey,
right after Mike Griffith, right?
all right, sounds good. Thanks, Don.
Thanks, Don. Enjoy your pub crawl. For the guy who doesn't drink.
Loves the sweet tea.
He's a fascinating watch. We'll continue.
Welcome back in. It's 12 noon on St. Patrick's Day. It is the day after Selection Sunday. A lot of basketball. If you missed our interview with Martin Newton from the NCAA Selection Committee, go download it where you get your podcasts. It's a fascinating interview, some interesting questions, and he did not shy away from any of the answers in regards to the University of North Carolina. That is the big story in college basketball. The Tar Heels, they get in the tournament. Their athletics director, Bubba Cunningham, he was the chairperson of the NCAA Selection Committee. A story came out this morning and said that based on his contract, he just got a nice $68,000 bonus for North Carolina making the NCAA basketball tournament. Imagine that.
It's not bad.
I'm going to recuse myself, and my buddies are going to vote North Carolina in. I'm going to get a $68,000 bonus.
I'm sure the North Carolina fans, they're excited, but if you're a North Carolina fan, compared to other teams that you've had in your storied history, you're probably not making any long-term plans for this tournament.
Well, the people in West Virginia are pissed off. The Republican governor,
they are.
He is having a press conference, I think, right now as we speak, in regards to they're going to sue the NCAA Selection Committee. They are not happy that their Mountaineers did not get in and North Carolina did. So we will continue to follow that story as is developing.
Mike texted into the show and he says, coming from the area, the state of West Virginia has plenty of issues bigger than this to be spending time on.
Well, we do have a pretty cool opportunity for you here right at Jocks 94.5, and that is our $1 million bracket challenge. Yes, it is back for the 2025 NCAA tournament. All you have to do is pick a perfect bracket and you can win $1 million. Or if you pick 60 or more of the games correctly, you can win $10,000. Plus, one local winner with the best bracket is going to score a $250 gift card to Twin Peaks and Hoover, where we will be on Thursday and Friday broadcasting live. For more information and to make your picks, just go visit us online at jocksfm.com and click on the $1 million bracket tab. Good luck from all of us here at Jocks 94.5.
Joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline, he covers the Alabama Crimson Tide for AL.com. Nick Kelly joins us on Three-Man Front. Nick, I know it was a short trip to Nashville, but I have to start off the conversation by asking anything new about Grant Nelson.
Not as of yet, but I do think that so far no indications are that it's uber serious or that it's some long-term injury. I mean, it seems in the sense immediately after was that it's short-term. It's something that not super serious, but just a question of, but does that mean that he would maybe still have to miss a game or two? I think that'll still be determined, but the sense I get is that it's not super serious, and we'll get maybe more details here shortly.
Nick, what were your thoughts on Alabama? We saw the two games that they played there in Nashville, and there was a stark contrast from, of course, the big Kentucky win where Alabama had no issues, and then the Florida game. We know how well that Florida's playing, but what were your two takeaways from that game? And they were very, very different.
Yeah, I would say that the first game, a lot to like. I mean, that's a Kentucky team that Alabama has beat 3 times. And, yeah, I think we saw the Alabama offense that they're wanting to run, and we saw them do so efficiently. And LeBaron Philon showing up big time. But then he contrasts that with a Florida team that just bullies you, that's super physical, that gets in your way, that can beat you in so many ways. And really, I think you just can't overreact too much to it, even though it's hard not to because it's most fresh and there were a lot of things that didn't go well. But Florida's the best team in the country, and I will argue that heavily right now. And just because they have so much depth and they have so many ways they can beat you. And then when you have Grant Nelson go out, that changed matchups. That changed who they could put on who. And also it was a 2-point game or so at halftime when right after he had to leave with the injury. So they were a completely different team without him, and they really needed him against those bigs that Florida has. But at the same time, you need other guys to step up, and we didn't see Mark Shears do that. We didn't see LeBaron Philon do that. I mean, Florida wore down Alabama, especially its guards in that second half. So, yeah, I think you kind of just burn the tape, you move on, you realize that that's just a phenomenal Florida team, and just make sure that you're always the toughest team on the floor. That's all that Natos wants, is all he asks. I mean, it's a big ask, but he wants that to be the case. And as long as Alabama can do that, they'll be in good shape. And that's the thing. I mean, they had such a tough stretch over the last couple of weeks that in some ways it's going to be a reprieve the next couple of games.
Nick Kelly joins us from AL.com, covers the Alabama Crimson Tide. So Nate Oates met with the media and he made the statement, Final Four or bust for this team. Your thoughts on that assessment by the head coach?
Yeah, I think it's very fair just because I don't know that we can adjust our expectations that we had at the beginning of the year too much because we've seen this team as a national championship contender. And why not have a similar expectation for that? Even though they've had challenges, they've had guys get injured. I would argue they're not quite the same team without Latrell Wrightsell. They're not quite the same team without a Darian Reed having a smaller role. So at the same time, you still want to try to get or keep these expectations at that high level because they're that type of program now. They're not a, hey, we're just happy to be here kind of team. I mean, the Final Four is very much so in play, mainly because, I mean, they get a 2 seed. They went last year as a 4 seed. So if they can go as a 4 seed, why not go as a 2 seed? So I think it's fair of him to expect that. And also, you don't want to hear your coach say, we're hoping for the Sweet 16. We're hoping for the Elite 8. No, you got to hear Final Four. If Alabama wants to be viewed as a true contender year in, year out, he has to have that view.
I know that you looked at the bracket as we all did, and we start playing it out on potential matchups. Where you look at this Alabama team, and let's just assume that Grant Nelson is back. If it's not in the first round, then it would be in the second round. But when you look at that bracket, any potential matchup problems that you see, Nick, that Alabama maybe has traditionally, at least this season, struggled with some of those teams and how they're made up?
Yeah, one team I'm watching that maybe is less obvious is BYU potentially. If they can get past Wisconsin, maybe see Alabama in, what would that be, the Sweet 16? I mean, that's a BYU team that is 11th offensively in KenPom, and Alabama's defense has struggled at times. It's been inconsistent. So say BYU gets hot and Alabama's defense doesn't show up and step up that day, it could be a tough one. I mean, it actually could be a high-scoring game because BYU's defense isn't elite. So that 6 seed BYU could maybe be a little problematic. I mean, even St. Mary's in the second round, I mean, that's also a team that defends really well, 8th in KenPom in adjusted defensive efficiency. So St. Mary's could be a team to watch and a little tougher. I think they'll have no problem with Vanderbilt. So I would expect Alabama to see St. Mary's in the second round. So BYU, St. Mary's could be a little problematic, maybe a little sneakier problematic than say I mean, 3 seed Wisconsin could be tough, but that's maybe a little more obvious. And of course, Duke, as that 1 seed, is going to be a tough one to get past. But I think more the subtle ones, I would look at BYU and St. Mary's as definitely not easy games.
The people around the program at Alabama that you talked to, what were their thoughts after the bracket came out? Are they happy with where they're heading? They happy with the potential of getting to the Elite 8 or maybe even the Final Four trip again? Just overall assessment of where this team is from a bracket standpoint.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks would have preferred to go to Lexington, as I think most fans would have. But I don't think that anyone's too flustered or, oh no, not Cleveland kind of thing with heading to Cleveland. So, but overall, the bracket-wise, I think, yeah, there's a lot of optimism about, hey, there's a pretty good path here. I mean, really, until Alabama would see Duke, I don't see any of these teams that it's like, man, Alabama's going to have a tough time getting past them. Doesn't mean they can't lose, but I really think that NATO said, Final Four or bust, but to me, it's Elite 8 or bust. This should be an Elite 8 team, and if Alabama does not get there, they've messed up. So I think the draw that Alabama got is really quite good because you look at what region is it? The West region. I mean, that's a tough region with St. John's and Florida and Florida having to get past UConn in the second round, assuming both teams make it there. Maryland is tough. So, I mean, Alabama, I think, is in a very winnable, I don't want to say region, but just it's very winnable to get to the Elite 8 compared to, say, a West region. So I think folks are happy with the draw.
Nick, for Alabama in areas that they've struggled with this year, what do you think can maybe be rectified as far as things that Nate Oates, that team, can really focus on and make sure that they're buttoned up for March?
Yeah, I'll focus on second half defense because a lot of ways that can be an effort thing and that can be a want-to thing. And Alabama's second half defense at times this year has not been good. And we saw it be much better. Actually, I think the best it's ever been in SEC play against Kentucky. allowing, I think it was a 0.8 something points per possession, 0.842, which is phenomenal. So yeah, can they replicate that? Can they put that effort together of staying strong throughout the game, giving effort the whole time? Because it has not always been there defensively. So that is one thing they can control that I think they can improve on and will go a long way toward winning these games, especially when it's close in the end.
Nick, in regards to the rest of the SEC, 14 teams get into the tournament. Only South Carolina and LSU will be staying home and not going any postseason basketball. Just the totality of this league, and you covered it all season long. Have you ever thought or seen a league this dominant as it has been, and how the gauntlet was for every single team in it? The NCAA tournament might not be as bad as the regular season was for SEC teams.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it going two ways. One, it could be, okay, it prepares these teams to really just dominate in the bracket, and it has them ready to go because, yeah, a lot of these games will be easier than what, say, an Alabama has faced the last couple of weeks. At the same time, though, having all that just gauntlet of a stretch for Alabama, for other teams, just constantly facing these high-quality teams, that can wear you down a little bit. So I wonder if there's also some maybe ramifications or just guys being worn down by playing in the SEC that really was just so good up and down. So I wonder if that if we look back at the end of this tournament and just see a lot of SEC teams lose maybe earlier than expected, being a result of maybe some of that fatigue of just such a grind of a conference schedule, or we see then that strength in each of those guys and each of those teams, and maybe we see a SEC heavy Final Four.
If it's not Florida, if it's not a team from the SEC, and it's not a team named Duke, outside of the conference other than Duke, who is that team you see potentially with the best opportunity to cut down the net?
Oh, man. Well, you just took out all my Final Four picks. So I think right now I've got Auburn, Florida, and then I think I'm going to do Tennessee, and I'm debating on Duke or Alabama for that Final Four spot. But, yeah, that's a good question. Maybe Texas Tech. Okay. I mean, Texas Tech, I think they're in a decent spot. I mean, they'd have to play Florida in the Elite Eight, but I mean, you look at what they've done. I mean, they're 7th on KenPom, got a top 6 offense, top 40 defense. I think they're in a solid spot. I'm not saying for the point of the exercise, I think they're maybe high up there of the teams I can't pick, or outside of the teams I can't pick. But like I said, I think those SEC teams that I mentioned and Duke are probably the favorites right now. But one upset maybe to watch is Houston versus Gonzaga. I mean, it's going to be tough for Gonzaga to beat Houston, but Gonzaga, the analytics really like them. And I mean, the analytics really like Houston too, but in terms of maybe, 1 versus 8 seed, unlikely upset, I think Gonzaga's got a shot. So I'm watching that spot to keep Houston out of the Final Four. But if Houston wins it, I think they could easily make the Final Four as well.
Okay, give me one SEC team not part of the Big Four. And I mean the Big Four as in Florida, Auburn, Tennessee, and Alabama, making it the farthest. Give me one of the 10 remaining SEC teams. Which one is it?
I'm looking over my bracket quick. Well, even though I just said Texas Tech, maybe Missouri. Maybe Missouri's a team that, as a 6th seed, could do some damage. They kind of have petered off a little bit toward the end of the year, but I really thought they gave Florida a better game than maybe some expected. And if they hadn't, I think there's a bad, start. If I remember correctly, I've just watched so many games recently that kind of molds together a little bit. But Missouri can get hot. I mean, look at what they did to Alabama at home. So if they get hot and their shooters start making more shots again, that's a team that could go on a little bit of a run. I'm not saying Final Four, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them playing Sweet 16, maybe even Elite 8 if things keep rolling for them.
That is Nick Kelly. Joins us here on 3-Man Front periodically. Covers the Alabama Crimson Tide for AL.com. We'll get that bracket done, Nick, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good, guys. Enjoy it. We'll see you.
Thanks. That is Nick Kelly joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
Your reactions here on this Monday, we'll get to those. 205-834-9450.
Wallace State baseball swept a 4-game series against Lawson State last week to improve to 4-3 in conference play on the season. They're now set to play Chattahoochee Valley in a 4-game set this upcoming weekend, And on the softball side, Wallace State softball went 3-1 against Northeast Alabama over the weekend to hold on to the top spot in the ACCC softball standings. For more information on the Lions and their athletics, go visit them online at athletics.wallacestate.edu.
It is now official. West Virginia governor has announced that he is suing the National Corrupt Athletic Association, also known as the NCAA. More next on Three Man Front. On a cool Monday, it's St. Patrick's Day. Hope everyone is enjoying the holiday. Conrad's had 3 or 4 Guinness in the control room celebrating the event. Did FSU Dave bring those to you?
He did.
Okay.
It was very nice of him.
Yeah. Because typically FSU Dave is about 6 deep about this time tomorrow.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah.
Love you, FSU Dave.
Yeah, we do. He's Irish, right?
No, actually, well, I mean, he might, he's got dual citizenship, right? He's Canadian
That's
and
right.
American.
Yeah. Well, we just call that American now, but.
Man.
Well played. Well played,
Served
my
up on
friend.
a silver platter.
Just for planning purposes, the Cumulus Media Employee of the Month, Conrad Van Order, he will be there tomorrow, and he'll be signing autographs. Do you have your 8x10 glossies? Did Paige go to Glamour Shots and get those done for you over the weekend?
No, we're doing those tonight.
Tonight?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hot off the press for everybody.
Yeah, if you did not hear big news on the show, Conrad Van Order was, I don't know how it happened, but because I've said this before, I just didn't think he had a very good month last month, but he was named the Employee of the Month for Cumulus Media Birmingham.
And there's some theories on how he got that. We take you to the text line, 205-834-9450. Conrad, sorry, I've just got to read these texts. And Posey chiming in on his theory. And Posey seems to believe that it was a pity vote based on the fact that you could not change a tire.
All votes count the same, don't they? Doesn't matter how you get them.
Tim says, hey, Conrad, are you worried about your team? They definitely have warts, buddy. Apparently, Tim didn't like your comments on Auburn.
Yeah.
What did I say about Auburn?
Something ugly and hateful.
Yeah, it was hateful.
Very hateful.
Sorry about
Tame
that.
your tongue. Anthony, optimistic Auburn fan, he said, I took Bruce's answer to the question that Ryan Hennessy asked him, and we will play that again for you in its entirety, as an opportunity to get a message to his team through the media. Could have been.
But I didn't think people on teams pay attention to the media.
They all do.
They don't read stories. They don't click on websites.
Well, Nick Saban used to say, we don't watch all that. And then he would bring up in news conferences, like what you guys write.
Oh, a direct quote. Yeah.
Yeah. They all read it.
Funny how that works.
They all see it. Johnny says, if Bama can't beat one guy without Grant Nelson, that one guy being Robert Morris, they have bigger problems than we know.
I would agree with that.
Now, Robert Morris was one of the original signers of the Declaration of Independence, correct?
Yep.
You would know that.
He was in the room. And that was officially what, August the 3rd, or is it August the 4th? Some of those dates. We all look at July 4th.
Oh, yeah, but that's not the actual day. Yeah.
Was that right?
Well, there's a megachurch pastor by the name of Robert Morris who apparently got into a lot of trouble today because that's all that I'm seeing on my search about Robert Morris.
I used to get Robert Morris and Philip Morris confused.
Oh. Not a good day to be Robert Morris. I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Really bad day.
Well, what about the ancient Robert Morris? Not the one that just got in trouble.
Yeah, I'm, let's see. Sorry, sometimes you just see certain charges and you're like, oh, that's different level of bad. Let's see. He is one of only 2 signers of the Declaration of Independence to sign all 3 basic founding documents, including the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, and the U.S. Constitution.
How about that?
Looky there. Rarefied air.
The trifecta. He was the first member of the trifecta.
Should have signed it bigger, then we'd all be
That's right.
saying it was our Robert Morris instead
He
of
would
our
have had
John
his own.
Hancock.
He would have had his own financial services.
That's a very good point.
You know, Robert brings up a great point. The state of Alabama has the same number of teams in the NCAA tournament, that being 4, as the ACC this season. Thought I would never see it.
That's a great point. I did not think of it that way.
Ken says Auburn doesn't deserve number 1 seed. They lost 3 of their last 4 games. Broome has the yips from the free throw line. Not as bad as the football seeding, but close. So, yeah, I don't agree. I think they do deserve a number 1.
Absolutely.
Now, if you want to argue overall number 1, fine, but
Yeah, again, it is the totality of the resume and what they have done over the course of the season. And I mean, again, this was a team that, I mean, a month ago you could have put into the number 1 overall seed. Yeah, that's not good, is it?
already some brackets coming in out of the South and the West. One of our listeners has Auburn and Florida matching up, and Duke and Tennessee.
For what it's worth, you could have a Final Four. It is possible for Alabama, Auburn, Florida, and Tennessee, that could be your Final Four. There's a path to that.
So the final AP poll just came out before the NCAA tournament.
Okay.
Duke is number 1.
Houston's number 2, right?
Correct. Florida is number 3.
Okay.
Auburn is number 4. St. John's at 5. Tennessee 6. Alabama 7. Michigan State 8. Texas Tech 9. And Louisville rounds out the top 10.
Where's North Carolina?
Did not make the top 10.
That is wild. You have an 8 seed that is the 10th ranked team in the country.
Isn't it crazy?
I mean, I know there are a lot of people that were upset about that, but that is wild.
Hunter says, West Virginian here. Don't throw us in with Morrissey. He's a Republican, but more importantly, he's a carpet-bagging jackass.
Okay.
Well, the West Virginia governor a moment ago, he announced that he has asked his attorney general by the name of J.B. McCuskey to launch an investigation into the NCAA selection committee to determine if any backdoor deals and corruption happened. The West Virginia AG described the NCAA selection process as antiquated and says his investigation will center around determining a level of accountability in the process. If this sounds familiar, folks, it's because the state of Florida tried to do the same thing with the CFP and it went nowhere.
I feel like I had a little Jimbo Fisher coming out there, Pat.
Been working on it.
Posey sends us a picture that he took this weekend at the SEC basketball tournament. And he's asking if Pat has the moat fountains spraying green today. It's just naturally green.
Yeah,
he doesn't clean it.
Yeah, it's all
it's algae and gator poo.
A lot of pollen over the weekend.
At least it's in there and not in your nose.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do sound much better today.
Thank you. I feel much better.
Good.
Appreciate all the calls and text over the weekend asking me if I felt better.
Well, I was busy polishing my award.
You're
polishing your what?
My award.
Oh.
Yeah, that wasn't the best choice of words.
Thought he said he had a wart.
I thought he was polishing something else.
Gavin says, tell Molly she did a great job on her wall bracket. Hey, yeah, whatever.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Thomas was curious why South Alabama was not invited to the NIT.
All right. So a little bit of controversy, and I've been digging through the break. So the NIT has released a statement. Apparently, there was some confusion. I think South Alabama was 21-11, and I kept looking around, where's South Alabama? What? Surely they didn't turn it down. Apparently, there was some confusion that they had invited South Alabama, and then they pulled the invitation to South Alabama. There was a lot of confusion, but at the end of the day, they did not ultimately get the invite.
So is there a team in the NIT that's not supposed to be in there, and they're in place of South Alabama?
Potentially.
It's confusing.
Who'd have thought NIT controversy on St. Patrick's Day?
Hold on, I'm getting into it. Okay, this was the official statement by the NIT. After the NIT bracket was released Sunday evening, it was brought to the NIT's attention that one of the teams scheduled to participate in the tournament had also committed to a non-NCAA affiliated postseason event. In an effort to secure another participating team, the NIT prematurely extended an invitation to the South Alabama Jags prior to learning that the original team chose to accept its invitation to the NIT. Regrettably, the NIT rescinded its invitation to South Alabama. We understand the emotional impact this confusion created, and we sincerely apologize to South Alabama head coach Richie Riley and the student athletes for the error.
That's tough. What was a couple years ago where the tournament committee called the school and arranged the flights, and then the school learned that they were not in the tournament?
Don't remember that one.
Was that last year?
Had reached out about potential flights. No, it was not last year. Maybe one of our listeners remembers it, and then they had made a mistake, and they basically had to call back and say, "Oh, never mind."
Well, that's awkward.
Sorry about that. I have not pulled up my NIT bracket, the entire bracket. What's the reaction on IU? On Indiana?
Oh, they're mad. I think more people in West Virginia is irritated than mainly because they're probably ready to be done with their head coach at Indiana.
Well,
so
and
why
I
do we
think,
need to play one more
I was
game?
about to say
Yeah,
they're trying
for
to
a-
validate their decision to let Woodson go. Yeah.
For a school like Indiana, they would have taken an invitation to the NCAA tournament, but given knowing that you're ready to move on, I think maybe your biggest fear was he goes on a deep run.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're talking about a coach that you've already decided to fire and not playing in his last game.
Yep.
Speaking of former Indiana coaches, what about the fact that Mike Davis is sitting on the bench for Memphis?
Yeah.
Former UAB head coach. Former player at the University of Alabama. Coached in the national championship game for Indiana.
Now, some people forget that.
It's a good guy to have on your bench. It's pretty good.
FSU Dave is not Irish, but his liver is.
Excellent
I think
point.
there's a lot of people that would say that today. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have talked about this already, but who is your favorite Cinderella team this year? Yankee from T-Town. Pat, did you throw Maryland's hat in the ring for you?
I did.
What about you, Conrad?
Well, what are we qualifying as a Cinderella? Because, I mean, I think
Nobody from the SEC.
Anybody that's Duke would be my Cinderella pick then. No, I know there's a lot of people that are really high on Drake in their first round matchup with Missouri. I know there's a lot of people that are probably going to pick that one. I mean, again, we liked them last year and we got burnt, but I think McNeese again is one of those teams. You get Clemson in the first round.
I like Colorado State against
Colorado
Memphis.
State versus Memphis.
They are a favorite in that one.
I saw Colorado State play a few times late at night, and they got a dude, and I can't think of his name to save my life, but it's just like, get out of his way, and he takes the game over.
They're very good.
And remember, go ahead and finish your thoughts.
No, I was just going to say, in Memphis, I've seen Memphis up close 3 times. They're just not they have tons of athleticism. They're long, they're good. But to me, they're just not disciplined enough, especially being able to take care of the basketball. And I could see that Memphis team being a team that once things start unraveling, it will go to pot pretty quick, especially when you're playing somebody that like a Colorado State that could get under your skin.
I'm going to go back to Rocco Miller, and I asked him a very similar question when he joined us last week. And the team that he gave us, he said, keep your eye on these guys. UC San Diego. They take on Michigan in that 12-5 matchup. Michigan's a 2.5-point favorite. But UC San Diego is that team for me.
Also keep this in mind. With teams playing in Denver, 4 of the 8 teams playing in Denver played on Sunday, and they're going to that high altitude. Just another, I look at barometric
pressures. Going to be
pressures.
tough getting up and down the court for them.
I look at barometric pressures. I look at altitude. I look at all those type things when you start figuring stuff.
Fat Joe asks, has any other members of the 3-man front got the Employee of the Month? Not that I know of. Pat and I aren't eligible because we're previous winners of the Employee of the Year award.
I got the Employee of the Year.
Is that how that works?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Not eligible if you won the
big one.
The big one.
That's the big one.
That's the big one.
That's the trip to Cancun.
That's
Funny,
the one
I've
that
never
gets you
heard
a
about that
banner
till
in your
today.
Raptors.
Interesting. Y'all are really humble because I haven't heard y'all mention
Well,
that
we don't
at
like to
any
bring
point.
it up, but when you bring it up like that, we have to.
Employee of the Month's like CBI. It's like the CBI banner.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't really make a banner. You just kind of make it a plaque, and you can put it in your little entryway foyer of your basketball office.
All right,
More
more
remember that
3-man.
year? That was cute. We went to that tournament.
More 3-man front on this Reaction Monday. This is Jocks 94.5. I did not know that.
It's on the St. Patrick's Day playlist. That's all I can tell you.
Okay. The controversy with South Alabama basketball continues to grow at this hour. We're just telling you about the whatever that happened last night with the NIT. Well, now Keith Gill, who's the commissioner of the Sun Belt Conference, who we heard earlier in the show talking about how if UAB would have won yesterday, that North Carolina would not have been in the NCAA basketball tournament. Keith Gill has just sent out a release, and he says, as the top remaining at-large team not selected at the original field, South Alabama was prematurely contacted by the NIT on Sunday as a potential replacement team to fill out the 32-team bracket. With all 32 teams accepting their NIT invitations, this opportunity did not materialize. We regret the emotional impact this chain of events had on South Alabama student athletes and want to congratulate Sun Belt Coach of the Year Richie Riley and his team on the historic season, including a Sun Belt regular season co-championship. So hopefully that puts to bed what took place last night with the NIT and South Alabama. South Alabama and Alabama A&M, the two only teams in Division I in the state of Alabama not to go postseason basketball. And technically South Alabama, it appears, was in line to be the 9th team of the 10. A little bit of confusion.
No, outstanding season, though, for the Jacks. We'll get to your phone calls, 800-239-WJOX. Let's go to Rob and Helena. Hey, Rob, what's up?
Hey, guys. How are y'all?
Doing well. How are you?
Hey, Landrum, how am I doing on my bets on that $12 I gave you last Tuesday? Did I have a loss at all?
You still have $20 or $12, excuse me.
I was about to say you've increased it to 20.
No, I've not grown your money. No, you have $12.
No,
If you're going to be there tomorrow, then I will gladly hand those $12 back to you.
Oh, no, I won't be there tomorrow. But no, I want you to keep betting them against what you bet.
It makes it, it just makes it very confusing to keep up with. I did very, very well on Saturday. You did not.
Okay, well, if I lost it all, no worries. It was no problem. I gave it to you to lose.
Well, you told me to take the opposite of everything that I picked.
He had mentioned to me that he would really like $500 for the NCAA tournament. So, I mean, if you're looking to,
if you want me to give you premium plays, I'm going to need $1,000.
I got that, but I'm not going to give it to you until Friday at Twin Peaks.
There you go. We hope to see you there. Come on by and see us.
Yeah. Well, we'll see about that. But I have that, and I don't mind giving it to you because I don't think your runs don't last very long. Hey, but anyway, yeah, going back to North Carolina, and I was always a North Carolina fan, but there were a couple of teams that deserved to get in before them, including UAB. But anyway, that was no worries. And I was trying to talk to Don when he called y'all earlier. I'll make this quick. That, I'm from Biloxi, and I grew up there, and the best man in my wedding is the general manager at the Golden Nugget. And so I'm trying to hook him up on some free bets there.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, you guys are doing well. Yeah, I hope you guys are doing well. Again, like I always say, thank y'all so much for what y'all do for the community, but I won't be there tomorrow. We're changing the offices. We're moving just a few doors down, but we've got a lot of cleaning and stuff like that today, so I won't be there tomorrow.
All right.
Unless the miracle
Well,
happens.
Rob, we hope to see you later this week at Twin Peaks.
All right, perfect. Y'all take care.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Rob. Let's go to David. He's in Gadsden. Hey, David.
Hey, happy St. Patrick's Day and good Monday to you guys. Hope y'all having a great day.
David, what is going on, man? We haven't heard from you in a while. Hope you're well.
Oh, yeah, doing better. What about Mr. McElroy getting it done this morning, the Irishman on St. Patty's Day?
How about that? That was something else. Yeah, because the rain, they had the postponement yesterday, right, because of the weather.
Right. It was like it was meant to be that way.
Yeah, that's crazy.
All right, guys, you can go ahead and write these down.
All right, I got my pen out. Go for it.
Put them in gold. All the other conferences will be mad, but it's the SEC's year. Final four: Bama, Houston, Florida, and Auburn.
Wow.
And Bama beats Florida in an epic war in the national championship game in overtime by 4.
Wow. All right, so we've got Bama. You said Houston, Auburn, and Florida, right?
Yep.
And you got Florida and Bama playing in the national championship game. Goes to overtime. Bama wins by 4.
By 4.
All right, I got it down.
All right.
Thank you, Dave.
One other thing, I got a food challenge. If my boy's up to it,
Conrad's ready.
Steaming shrimp burrito. 30 minutes to eat it, nothing to drink. But if you finish it, I'll give you $100.
Okay, what was it again? Please say that again.
Wait a second. He didn't say something about Cleveland, did he?
A steaming shrimp burrito.
Okay, I was just making sure. I'm looking at these brackets and I'm seeing the Cleveland where Alabama's going to play, and then okay, I was just getting really confused. Okay.
little chili peppers in there and all that, and Conrad, employee of the month, make it food challenge of the month, brother.
Yep. Hey, that's a great idea, Dave. Appreciate that. Thank you, man.
All right. Have a good one.
Take care. Me and you always keep talking about we need to get back up to Gaston and see him. Remember, King came by and saw us at the remote we had.
I like how he throws out these heating. What was the other one that he made? It was during the football season. It was something that was really, really spicy.
Mm-hmm.
He grows his own peppers. I think that sounds like a great challenge for you.
I like the way things are starting to line up for the rest of the spring because we've got to do the Surströmming challenge again.
Nope.
No, the people voted. That's happening. That's happening. And then we've got the Cleveland. What was it called again?
That's such a deep cut joke. So deep cut. I thought he said something else at first, which really had me concerned.
Yeah, that would.
For being honest,
that would have a lot of people concerned, especially Paige.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think you can still get botulism from that.
Well, to his credit, we are talking about you, so anything's game. You throw it out there on the table and see if Conrad bites.
Just like
No
how
pun
everybody
intended.
volunteers me for these wonderful, wonderful events.
And people who don't even know you.
I know.
Molly's got her tickle box on.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Conrad.
I was walking out of church yesterday. A guy showed me his phone. He said, "You think Conrad will do this?"
Are you serious?
I'm not kidding. Same guy who loves the Price is Right game. I was like, I don't know if he would do that.
What was it?
But we could ask. I'll tell you in the break.
Okay.
I mean, it was appropriate, but it's a lot. Even for Conrad. 205-834-9450. Three-man front continuing. We're going to talk to Nathan King about Auburn, Bruce Pearl. Disrespected? Next.
Welcome back to St. Patrick's Day live coverage here on Three Man Front, Jocks 94.5. Nathan King from Auburn Undercover. He will join us at the top of the hour, talk about Auburn's seeding as they head to Lexington, Kentucky later this week.
Well, we are excited to announce that the $1 Million Bracket Challenge is returning here at Jocks 94.5. It's simple. If you pick a perfect bracket, you can win $1 million. If you pick 60 or more of the games correctly, you can win $10,000. Plus, one local winner here with the best bracket is going to score a $250 gift card to Twin Peaks, where we'll be broadcasting live Thursday and Friday for the opening rounds of the NCAA Tournament. For more information and to make your picks, go visit us online at jocksfm.com and click on the $1 Million Bracket tab. Good luck from all of us here at Jocks 94.5.
So Auburn is the number 1 overall seed. They are seeded in the South. They had that option as the number 1 overall seed, which means they will have Lexington. If they get through Lexington, they will go to Atlanta, Georgia. Then from Atlanta, you go to San Antonio, Texas, and Bexar County. Auburn has never met St. Francis out of the Northeast Conference in the 119-year history of the program, while it is 6-0 all-time versus Alabama State out of the SWAC. So Alabama State plays St. Francis, and the Hornets are a 3.5-point favorite, in which that game will be played tomorrow night. Both teams last met, I'm talking about Alabama State and Auburn, back in December of 2023. The Tigers are tied 1-1 in both of their all-time meetings with Creighton out of the Big East and Louisville out of the ACC. So that is the assumption of who their next opponent potentially would be. Louisville's head coach, I heard an interview with him last night on ESPN Radio, and he was none too happy about Louisville's seeding. But you know what? You ought to be happy because you're getting to play right down the road.
Yeah. 70 miles. You got a fan base that's going to travel. Of course, hopefully for Auburn fans, the Big Blue Nation that doesn't travel to go and watch the Cats play, they will go inside of Rupp Arena and cheer against their hated rival, the Louisville Cardinals. You can see Bruce imploring. Auburn will have plenty of fans there. And that's why I brought it up with Martin Newton. I'm not saying that Auburn fans were complaining, but I saw people saying, that's not right. You got Louisville just down the road. And then I thought back, well, golly, just a couple of years ago down at Legacy Arena. If I'm Houston, I'm probably not stoked.
Yeah, Kelvin Sampson was not very happy about that matchup.
No.
At all.
They handled it.
Mm-hmm.
Won that game like they should have by 16 points.
I will also say, if you just look at the bracket and the way that it was constructed, I think what you saw happen was you had SEC teams in every other 8-9 matchup in the other 3 regions. And so the decision was, do we give Auburn the non-SEC matchup, which would be Louisville or Creighton, or do you give them potentially a Mississippi State or an Oklahoma or one of those teams? And the committee doesn't want to have SEC on SEC matchups that early on, I guess. And so that's why that ended up the way that it was.
Excellent point. No team has lost 3 of their last 4 games before the NCAA tournament and won the national championship. Well, after the loss this weekend, this is our very own Ryan Hennessy, good friend of the program, sports director at NBC 13. He had this question for Bruce Pearl.
Coach, I asked Jenna the same question. 3 of the last 4. Is this kind of a flush it, move forward? Is there panic at all? What do you look at with this?
Man, I'm really glad you asked me that question. We lost to Alabama, Tennessee, and at Texas A&M. Yeah, we're panicked. That's a real softball. We lost to some great teams. We lost the buzzer against Alabama. We had possessions here, so yeah, we're panicked. I can hardly wait till next weekend and start playing again. Just get me here. Let's get to Sunday. Let's find out where we're going. Let's find out who we're playing, and let's get back to work. I'm looking forward, not back.
Okay, a lot to take away from that reaction. The more I think about it, if he asked Janai Bruin the same question, and Pearl heard the question asked to Janai, that gave Pearl time to stew on it, like if he, or whatever's running through his mind. If
he better not ask me that question.
If he heard the question, but I think that was, I don't think that was anything personal towards Ryan. I didn't think it was an unfair question. None of us did, but Bruce Pearl obviously was agitated at the time, and what was maybe causing that. I don't think it was just that question. It was not a blindsided question because he gave him the option. It's not like he posed the question or he directed it by saying, you got to be in panic mode right now, coach, right?
Well, and I mean, I think it's fair. You've lost 3 of your last 4 games. If you're Bruce Pearl, you probably are agitated and frustrated at the situation.
If you put
That's
it
your
this
answer
way,
then.
if you phrased it this way, Coach, for those that are saying that your team or you should be panicked about the closing stretch of the season, how would you respond to those critics? Then that response goes probably a different way. I'm not trying to do Ryan's job for him. I never would have thought he would have gotten the reaction from the original question that he asked, that he did from Bruce.
I was a little bit confused when he said, what a softball question.
Yeah, and the softball question, that was...
Because that typically means it's an...
low-hanging fruit, easy.
That was not a softball, in my opinion. The softball question is, wow, Coach, tell us how great Janai Broom is. That's a softball question.
Yeah. And there are times where in softball questions, you have to ask the softball question.
Yeah.
Sometimes you start off with the softball, you give them the heater.
Or the fork ball.
Letter high, up and in. The fork ball, is that what you said? A lot of people are still wondering about this eating challenge and what was in that shrimp. Molly. Stop it, Molly.
Hopefully not that.
One more hour left to go. We will hear the Auburn side of things from Nathan King. Auburn undercover. Bruce Pearl's response Saturday. Moving forward, this Auburn team, can they regain that mojo? Nathan King, your text, your reactions as we continue. Reaction Monday, 3-man front, tournament edition, Jocks 94.5.
It is 1 o'clock. Welcome back in. It's the St. Patrick's Day edition of 3-Man Front. Pat Landrum, Molly Conrad with you until 2 o'clock. We'll take you up to the other Irishman, Paul Feinbaum, at 2 o'clock.
Screams Irish.
Yes, very much so.
I bet he's having a big old plate of shepherd's pie right now.
I'd probably some, maybe some Baileys, mixed in.
His coffee?
Yeah.
Does he drink a lot of coffee?
like that? No, he does not.
Nor do you.
I do not.
So what tonight? You never really clarified on the Irish fare that you will be enjoying as an Irishman.
Probably just raw potatoes.
Raw?
Just raw potatoes.
I was reading a story.
Why are you laughing? Roar?
I was reading a story on Billy Bob Thornton back when he was young and in Hollywood and trying to make it, and he went on an all potato diet where he just ate potatoes and he nearly died.
It's a lot of starch.
Yeah.
I like a good old baked potato. When's the last time you had a good old baked potato?
A good old baked potato?
I mean, a good old big old steakhouse baked potato.
It's probably been a couple of months.
Really?
Yeah, but like to get it really crispy on the outside, put that salt on, that kosher salt, and then mash it up on the inside, sour cream, cheese, bacon.
I grilled Friday night. I grilled steaks.
Yeah.
And did big old baked potatoes.
There's nothing like it.
With the kosher salt. And
Did you do a crisp salad on the side?
Oh, yeah, I don't do that.
Oh, that's right. You don't do salad. You don't do anything green.
I don't do that stuff.
I will say this is a somewhat recent discovery in our household, and since it's St. Patrick's
By the
Day,
way, hold on a second. For those that are new to the program, the voice that you're hearing in the other room, that is the employee of the month from Cumulus Media.
Thank you.
I had 3 people stop me in the hallway on the way to the bathroom saying, "Hey, congratulate Conrad. We're proud of him."
I'm glad to know they couldn't make the extra 20 feet down here to tell me themselves, but that's okay. I was just gonna say Irish butter. I'm telling you. I don't know what kind of butter you use at home, but if
the
you
Irish
use
butter's good.
butter, it is so good.
And there's a cheese. It's a Dubliner cheese. I don't know if you've ever gotten that. You'll get that from if they have like your mainstream cheeses in the normal cheese section. But if you go into like a specialty, fancier cheese section, they'll find the Dubliner. They got the aged cheddar, and it's good.
So anything dairy that's Irish, there you go.
Anything dairy that's Irish.
That's what we just
Molly, when you were in Ireland for the Nebraska football game, did you indulge in some great Irish butter?
I'm sure I did. I also had a Guinness, and it was really good.
Just one?
Yeah.
Before the game?
It was a work trip, Pat.
Was that before the game?
No, it was after.
It was during the game.
Was,
what are you talking about? Nebraska lost.
Well, yeah.
Look at that dance team member. She continues to do cartwheels.
And a baby Guinness. Have you ever heard of that? It's a shot. It's like Kahlua and Irish cream, and they make it look like a baby Guinness.
There's also, I can't say it. I got in trouble for saying it for that one guy that said that, apparently it's still really heated over there. But there's a certain drink.
Do not order those in Dublin.
Oh, where you put the shot in?
Yes.
Oh, those are my favorite.
I know, but you can't do it. I got our guy from across the pond that listens, he took exception to it. So I did not know that I had offended.
Is there a proper term for it?
No, I just don't think you say it. Well, you say it just depends on the company you're in.
It's like Beetlejuice. Don't say it 3 times.
Yeah. But no, all seriousness, don't say the name of that particular
It's a good one, though.
drink shot. Yes, it is.
All right, joining us on the Higginbotham hotline, we're going to get all of his Irish delicacies.
Is he
Nathan King.
Is he Irish?
Nathan King? Nathan, are you Irish?
I don't think so. I'm interested to know where this came from.
We are just celebrating St. Patrick's Day today. So, we're just.
That's fair.
Yeah, so we're
That's
just.
fair.
Patrick is big into his Irish heritage.
Yeah. I mean.
I'm not going to lie. I forgot that was today until right now. So thanks for reminding.
That's what Nathan's like. Why are you asking me
Nathan
where I
not
come
as
from?
excited as Pat about the day.
Like, why are you asking me about where I come from? Where my homeland is? What difference does it make? Listen, Landrum, he is absolutely, this is the first time Nathan has been able to come up for air this Auburn basketball season.
I assumed he hit the panic button on Saturday with everyone else.
Bruce has, right?
Right.
I mean, it's the panic button, 3 of 4, and team barely got a number 1 seed, right? I mean, that's what's going on here. Nathan, let's go back to Nashville. Let's talk about this basketball team. Just your overall thoughts on where this team currently is, because not saying some of the media think that Auburn is not going to be a Final Four team, but definitely the last couple weeks of the season, we've seen some, let's just say, some Achilles from this basketball team that we've not seen before.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bruce Pearl put it really well before they played Alabama. So go back to the last game of the regular season, previewing that game. He was talking about Alabama, which before that point had lost 4 of its last 6 games. And he pointed to the teams that they had lost to, which I believe was Missouri on the road, Tennessee on the road, Florida at home, and then he had trouble placing the last one. He was like, "Wait, what's the 4th one?" And we were like, "You in Tuscaloosa?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, that's right." And his point was, if Alabama's not in a slump right now. They've lost a bunch of really good teams, and he said, if we lose tomorrow to Alabama, we will not be in a slump. Well, obviously that happened. And then they obviously won 1 game in Nashville and then went down to Tennessee. I don't think this team is, I mean, nobody would say this team's playing their best basketball right now. And I think that's probably the biggest point of emphasis for them is just to get a little crisper on both sides of the ball. But look, I mean, when it comes down to it, I thought, and we could have all seen that Bruce Pearl answer coming from about a mile away with what he said on Saturday in regards to the panic button. But yeah, I mean, he's right. You look at the Alabama game, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Tahad Pettiford misses some free throws. If Janai Broome had gone to the basket instead of fading away, like, you're not having this conversation. I mean, in the Tennessee game, woulda, coulda, shoulda, had a bunch of opportunities there at the end of the game. Now, Alabama and Tennessee won those games. They played well in those games and deserved to win those games. But I don't think there's a lot of internal pressure on Auburn right now. I don't think there's a lot necessarily in terms of the panic or any sort of synonym for that right now. They did a good job of earning the number 1 overall seed, and I think a reset button is absolutely in order for this team. I do think it's going to be really important for them to play well on Thursday, though. Like I don't think this team would do well to have a clunker of a performance, because you could have a clunker against the teams they're going to play, and you could win by plenty. I think they need to go out, flex their muscles, remind themselves what they do well on both sides of the ball, and have a crisp performance, because, as I'm sure we'll get into, their Saturday game could be a really, really tough opponent.
We know when Auburn is playing well what that looks like, Nathan, and recently, for whatever reason, it's just not there. And there's not one thing that you can point to, for me anyways, and say, well, this is what's going wrong. It might be just a combination of a lot of little things. What are you noticing in your observations of following this team since the beginning of the season until this point, maybe where they're missing and some things that they can rectify?
Yeah, I mean, starting on the offensive end, Bruce Pearl talked about it after the Tennessee game. He said, maybe we're playing a little bit too much through Janai Broome. And he clarified that a little bit yesterday, saying it's not so much that Janai Broome's getting too many touches, because obviously that's pretty much, you can't have that. There's no such thing as Janai Broome getting too many touches in a game. But he's just wondering maybe if the pace of play on offense needs to change a little bit. Maybe it's been the best half-court offense in the country all year. Are they using that a little bit too much as a crutch and playing too slow? He said maybe he would like to see them get up and down in transition even after some made shots, put some pressure on the defense. All of a sudden you get that defense to be a little more tired than they would be, and Auburn's depth would be allowed to shine in those situations. Yeah, I mean, I won't go as far back as the regular season, because the A&M game and the Alabama game, look, Auburn played really well against Alabama. I mean, both teams just played their guts out. Alabama just pulled it out and was able to, they deserved to win that game. Auburn didn't play very well against Texas A&M, but I think we all could have seen that result coming from outer space after they had locked up the regular season and then go play a team like A&M that they match up poorly with. Their shooting from the perimeter needs to improve. They shot a combined 29% in 2 games in Nashville. Didn't shoot it so well at Texas A&M. Shot it just okay against Alabama. I mean, it goes without saying, because like everyone would like some 3-point shooting this time of year. But they've done a good job for the most part throughout the season. It's been one of the better 3-point shooting teams of the Bruce Pearl era. And as Bruce pointed out, Janai Broome is a really good passer. His assist numbers are down right now. That's because Auburn's just not hitting shots. They're not hitting shots that they normally would hit. Maybe going back to Rupp Arena is a good cure for that, because you guys remember how well they shot the ball last time they were in Rupp Arena. So I think you're exactly right. There's not any one major concern right now. I would say something that is encouraging is I wouldn't say their defense is a concern. I mean, the Alabama game, 52 points in the paint. I think they did a good job rectifying that going to Nashville. Now, they didn't play 2 potent offenses in Ole Miss and Tennessee, but I thought they played really well defensively. But that was 2 of their 3 lowest scoring games of the season were in Nashville. And so I think it goes more so to the offensive end. Don't think anyone is worried about Janai Broome right now. I think they just need a little bit of step up in terms of shot making from everybody else. And again, that's why I go back to see some shots go through the net against the 16 seed on Thursday. Feel confident on offense, maybe score in the 90s or something like that. I think that would be a good recipe for this team to try to get back on the right track.
Nathan King joins us from Auburn Undercover. He joins us on the Higginbotham Hotline. So let's fast forward the clock to Saturday. You just mentioned it before. Louisville's got to go 70 miles if they knock off Creighton. And all of a sudden that arena is going to have a lot of Cardinal in that arena as they take on Auburn. That matchup, Louisville or Creighton, is there one in particular to you, Nathan, benefits Auburn more or less?
I think they want to see Creighton. I mean, I think it's probably no secret. Even more so, I would lean more so to the fact that just like Louisville is really good and really underseeded. I understand the game's going to be in Kentucky. That's, it's like Birmingham to Tuscaloosa or Birmingham to Auburn. Like they'll be able to just, hey, bud, you want to go to the game tomorrow? And people Louisville fans will be able to just come right down the road. And so that obviously plays a factor. I do think Auburn it's going to have a lot of fans there. I mean, they've been locked into Lexington for 4 weeks. So, I mean, I do think they'll have a good crowd. I think more so than just the home crowd advantage. It's that Louisville is a really potent team. They're a really guard-heavy team. Terrence Edwards was one of the best transfers in the country from JMU. Chucky Hepburn is one of the best players in the league, if not one of the top 10, top 12 guards in the country. Obviously, you saw how well they played in the ACC tournament. This is a Louisville team that's won 21 of their last 23 games. Like this team is absolutely no slouch, and yet they get an 8 seed, I guess because of how weak the ACC was. But then the committee tells them, well, your ACC wins don't really mean that much. Here's an 8 seed, and then North Carolina gets into the tournament after they just sent a message, your ACC wins don't mean that much. So that obviously didn't make any sense whatsoever. So I think it's a better matchup for Auburn to go against Creighton. Both teams rely on the 3 ball a lot. I would say that's a dangerous part of both of these teams. 2 of the highest 3-point rates in the entire tournament, in the entire field of 68 that we've got coming up. And they don't shoot it the best. They're not the best 3-point shooting team in the world, but they're a lot like Alabama. Alabama, on paper, their 3-point shooting percentage is not the greatest, but they're going to keep chucking them until they start hitting them. And so that's obviously a dangerous team in the tournament. But I think you'd rather see Creighton. Obviously, Greg McDermott is a great coach in March, and Bruce Pearl respects him a lot. I just think that's a little bit better of a matchup. The guard play is not as dynamic, and Kalkbrenner is a fantastic big man, one of the best bigs in the country. But he's not I could eat my words here, but he's not an overly athletic, physical big man. I think Janai Broome would have a pretty decent advantage in that game. And when Janai Broome has an advantage, obviously it opens everything up. So, I mean, you guys saw it today. Louisville is a top 10 team in the AP poll, and they are an 8 seed in the NCAA tournament going to play Auburn if they win in the second round in their home state. And so I just think all signs point to you want to avoid that game. At the same time, if Auburn goes out and plays well, they're a good bit better than Louisville. And at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, you're going to have to beat a bunch of good teams to go to the Final Four. Like, I understand this draw is not the greatest for Auburn, and the circumstances are a little bizarre in terms of the location and the seeding, all that. But like at the end of the day, if you lose to Louisville, that probably means you weren't going to go very far after that. So you've got to beat some good teams. And as we know, as you guys were just talking about, when Auburn is playing their B+, A- game, they are going to have an opportunity to beat pretty much anybody in the country. It's just a matter of, can they get back to that within the next week?
Yeah, and Nathan, it was hard to imagine just a couple of weeks ago that this Auburn team, there was a scenario where they could actually be hungry or have something to prove. And it was told to me a long time ago that motivation does not come from external sources. It can't come from Bruce Pearl trying to motivate his guys. Motivation comes from within. Inspiration, you can be inspired by someone else. But all of that saying that it does seem like this is organically set up where this team naturally may be a little bit hungry and with something to prove heading into this tournament. And who would have thought that after being on top of the college basketball world for most of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely part of it. Look, you can go all the way back to last year. Like, this team shouldn't have lost to Yale. That's been a scenario that has been playing in their heads over and over again. And by the way, they could see Yale again in the Sweet 16 because they're in their region. So storylines are definitely abound for this team. But yeah, I mean, I think that internal motivation has been there. Bruce Pearl likes to talk about this a lot. Motivation is not something his team ever lacks. And I think that's sort of, it's a question mark sometimes. Like when you lose a game, it's like, oh, were you motivated? And he's always clear to say, like, like the Alabama game, he was talking about like, yeah, you have a chance to sweep your rival. Like, of course you're going to be motivated to play that game. And so at the same time, everybody wanted to say after they clinched the SEC regular season, hey, this team doesn't really have anything else to play for. They've already probably locked up the number 1 overall seed. They've already won the regular season. These next few games, even going to the SEC tournament, they don't matter that much, right? That's what people were saying. I mean, I'm sure you guys heard Auburn fans say it. Well, now they've lost 3 of those last 4 games, and some people are, rioting in the streets about it and saying, oh, Auburn may not be the caliber of team. Well, do the games matter or do they not? Like, were those important games for Auburn, or was it okay and they were just waiting to get to March Madness? So I tend to lean toward the latter. I don't think necessarily that Auburn was not paying attention in those games or wasn't necessarily focused on the task at hand. I just think this team's been in need of a reset button. I don't think motivation is necessarily lacking for these guys at all. I don't think it was lacking in Nashville. I just think they got beat by a Tennessee team that's a 2 seed in a game where Auburn shot 13 of 22 from the foul line. And so, but yeah, I definitely agree. I think that Yale loss is going to be replaying in their heads over and over again, heading into this one. And look, yeah, maybe it is a little bit more of an edge saying, hey, you're the number 1 overall seed, and look what the NCAA just gave you. They just gave you potentially Louisville in the second round in their home state, an underseeded team. So I think this team has all the motivation they need for now. It's just going to be about, can you return to that level of play that you've been used to all season?
Nathan, your regards to the rest of the SEC. 14 teams in. Do you believe we'll get multiple SEC teams in the Final Four in your bracket?
Oh, yeah, I think yes. I mean, for now, I've got Auburn and Florida in the Final Four, and I mean, it is a really difficult draw for Auburn, but I don't hate their second weekend as much as I think some people do. I know, Texas A&M, you throw up red flags all over the place, right? Because that is the matchup for Bruce Pearl. He's only beaten Buzz Williams twice in his entire Auburn tenure, and it clearly was a horrible matchup for them, just a couple weeks ago in College Station. But at the same time, I mean, again, you talk about motivation. You don't need to be motivated to play a Sweet 16 game as you're trying to win a national title. But I think that is a team that Auburn would be dying to face again and dying to go out there and prove that game was obviously sort of a one-off situation. Texas A&M, I don't think would be able to get away with as much as they did on the offensive glass. Like, Bruce Pearl came back from that game and said, it's mystifying. That was the word he used. How much contact was allowed in that game? We saw that in SEC play. I don't think we're going to see that in the NCAA tournament. Michigan is a decent team. They went on a run here at the end of the Big Ten, but I don't think they're a super, super high caliber team that's built for a run. Obviously, Florida going up against St. John's, it seems like that's probably going to be the Elite Eight for them. I don't know how you guys are when you fill out your brackets. It's so difficult, especially early on. Maybe we'll do some more research over the course of the week, but all 4 of these 1 seeds are just phenomenal. I think Auburn, Florida, and Duke in particular sort of have that formula that you look at, but obviously Houston is a phenomenal defensive team as well. I think between Tennessee and I don't hate Alabama's run to the Elite Eight. That's really, I think Alabama got a pretty nice draw to try to get to the Elite Eight and have a chance to go against Duke for a trip to the Final Four. And so I think right now, if you ask me, I would say between Auburn, Florida, Tennessee, Alabama, I think there is a pretty good chance multiple SEC teams will be in the Final Four, which we'll have to see.
Nathan, I did see a professor. I don't know if you saw the same thing. He's from Davidson, and there was a story that was put out, and he's done all these analytics and metrics and everything else. And he said that you start with your Final Four, basically. Just focus on your Final Four, and then don't get too caught up in some of those early rounds. Just focus on the Final Four and maybe kind of work your way back. I don't know if that's going to help you or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do everyone does their brackets every year, and whether you're doing it with your family or friends or whatever, and it always seems like chalk works out. Like, chalk may not win you your event with whoever you're playing with, but it's probably going to place you pretty highly, as opposed to if you try. I think you're right. If you try to guess upsets in the first round, you're gonna whiff, and all of they're going to be a couple upsets, but none of the ones that you pick. In my experience, especially playing with some family members, like the children who guess based on mascots, or the people who don't know anything about basketball who guess based on the locations of the teams that they like more, those people are going to beat you out, and you've watched college basketball every single day of the season. So I think there's definitely no exact science to it. I think I've been beaten by one of my nieces or nephews in our bracket in maybe 2 or 3 years in a row now. So definitely a humbling experience.
What's the travel schedule for you guys? They're heading to Lexington.
Yeah, I think most people are. I mean, got to go tomorrow. Auburn will start practice there Wednesday, and so just day before the game, they'll have all their press stuff, they'll have all their media stuff. The day before the game, of course, tomorrow night we'll find out who they play because it'll be St. Francis against Alabama State. But Auburn will be leaving after their practice in Auburn tomorrow, heading up there. And all of us who cover the team and all that good stuff are going to be heading up there tomorrow as well.
Nathan King, he does an outstanding job covering the Auburn Tigers at Auburn Undercover. Also, you can find him there at Nathan King 247 on Twitter, and that is a part of 247 Sports. Nathan, we always appreciate the time. Safe travels. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all.
Nathan King joining us, Auburn Undercover, on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
Just announced a courtesy GMC for March up to $7,750 off MSRP on the 2025 Sierra HDs in stock. Courtesy has SLTs, AT4s, and Denali's in stock today. The Sierra SLTs are now up to $13,000 off MSRP and about $5,000 off MSRP on an all-new 2025 GMC Yukon and Yukon XLs. They're getting these transports in now pretty regularly, and as soon as they get on the lot, they are gone. So you need to come take advantage of this wonderful vehicle, the GMC Yukon, the Yukon XL. Once again, they have got a full truckload ready to move fast. So get out there to Courtesy GMC, located off of I-459, exit 32 there in Trussville. You can visit their online inventory at courtesybirmingham.com. February was a record-setting month thanks to our great listeners at Jocks 94.5. Number 2 in the zone out of the 60 dealers in percentage to objective. As so many people have already done, they have taken advantage of Courtesy GMC, not only their outstanding service, but their incredible deals that you can have today. No other dealer has better deals and pricing than Courtesy GMC there in Birmingham. CourtesyBirmingham.com is the website. Courtesy GMC off of I-459, exit 32 in Trussville.
As some of you are filling out your bracket, maybe you've already filled out your bracket or you're waiting to some tips for filling out your bracket. One expert has weighed in. We'll tell you what it is next on Three Man Front. Nice pull by Conrad Van Order, our Cumulus Media Employee of the Month.
I'm learning a lot about artists that are Irish today.
Who's this?
Enya.
Enya.
Didn't know she was Irish. The more you know. Sorry if that's lulling you to sleep on the road.
No, yeah. For those of you with narcolepsy, roll down the window. Get out and do some jumping jacks. Our St. Patty's Day edition of Three Man Front continues. We do have a tournament edition of Pat Potters coming up in just a few minutes. But I was telling you about a professor. There's a professor, and we have, Dr. Darren White here locally, but there was a professor, and he still is, at Davidson. And they know a little bit about college basketball, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But Davidson, his name is Dr. Tim Chartier. We'll go with Chartier.
Yeah, that sounds right.
He is a professor of mathematics there at Davidson. He was quoted as saying, if you were to create 1 billion brackets per second and never repeat it, it would take you 300 million years to create the number of brackets that are possible for one March Madness.
Huh. That's why no one's ever hit that perfect bracket.
Correct. Now, last year, Chartier said he picked number 1 UConn, number 1 Purdue, number 2 Arizona, and number 8 Nebraska as his final 4. Of course, half of his picks were correct, and UConn and Purdue reached the championship game. What he goes on to say is prioritize your final 4 picks first, because most bracket contests award increasing amounts of points as the tournament advances.
Mm-hmm.
Predicting the last 4 teams standing is the best path to boost your ranking. He adds, don't be too worried about missing that Cinderella team. Even if an unexpected team reaches the Elite 8 or the Final 4, your percentile ranking won't shift significantly. And he goes on to point out some of the seed pairing matchups, the 5-12, that's considered the prime matchup. But also you have the 10, the 7, the 6, 11, and all of that. He goes on to say, pay attention to late season performance. But when he's talking about that, he's not talking about the non-conference. He's talking about your conference schedule and how you played against teams very similar to your skill set or your ability. And then he says, do your own research, but don't let your bias factor too much into it.
That's good advice.
So if you got a team, it was like me and Pat last year, had been watching McNeese.
Yep.
Had seen McNeese, and we were dead set. McNeese, we're going to see that upset. And it didn't happen. They fell on their face. So just look at individual matchups.
Well, that's what kills you is when you have a team in the Final 4 and they lose on the first day, and so you're now missing out on 4 rounds of points. That's what really kills you. Like he's saying, if you miss one upset in the first round, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, when you have a Final 4 team get knocked out that first weekend, you're done.
Yeah, and listen, I know one of the reasons why I won it last year was because I had UConn winning the whole thing, and it had been a very long time since we had back-to-back champions, and a lot of people, based on the numbers,
you got scared, yeah.
They just were not going to go. But the way that I played it all out, I was like, man, I really want to pick somebody else to win it. But just the way I looked at it, I was like, I know it's probably not going to happen.
Sometimes chalk holds.
UConn. Yeah.
It's kind of how I feel about Florida right now. It's like, how can you not pick them to at least make it to a Final 4? And who knows, they could lose the first weekend, but just based on what you've seen over the last 2 or 3 weeks, how could you not just go with your gut?
Well, and it goes back to the conversation we have with Nathan. Any of these teams, if you go out there and you just roll it out there and say, hey, we're going to win, any of them could be upset. But if I'm an Auburn fan and I'm looking at the potential 8-9 matchup, playing Creighton or Louisville, you have to think about, yes, you take into account 3 of the last 4 games, but think about the schedule that this team played. Think about the opponents that they played, night in, night out in the SEC. Go back to the non-conference. If Bruce Pearl has that team playing up to their level, what they're capable of, Creighton, Louisville, let them combine to make an all-star team. That Auburn team should handle their business. They should move on. They should be playing in Atlanta the following weekend. So if I'm Bruce Pearl, I'm preaching that. Our best will beat their best. I just need your best.
I was about to say, we just have to figure out how to get back to our best.
Alabama, same thing. Yep. Alabama's best against those potential opponents. Florida, likewise. Now it gets a little dicey with some of the other SEC teams that are maybe that mid-tier to late tier. But yeah, handle your business. Prove it.
That was I'm fired up now.
Are you?
I'm motivated.
All right. I'm motivated. Pat's got questions. We'll try to answer them. Pat Ponders next.
$1:35 on this St. Patrick's Day. Hope everyone's having a wonderful Monday, getting your week started off. Kind of weird, no basketball tonight. No college basketball, I should say. Come off of championship week where there's multiple championship games every single night. So we got to wait one more night before we get action. Tuesday tip times in Dayton, Ohio. Those games can be heard on Westwood 1. 5:40 p.m., you've got St. Francis versus Alabama State. Then at 8:10, you have North Carolina taking on San Diego State. Then on Wednesday, you have Mount St. Mary's taking on American. And then at 8:10, it's Xavier versus the SEC's Texas Longhorns. So the first of 14 SEC teams will be in action. One storyline that we have been following throughout the afternoon is this bizarre situation that's been going on, Molly, between the South Alabama basketball team and the NIT. And Richie Riley, who is the head coach of South Alabama, he has just posted on social media. Earlier, the NIT had given an apology on some confusion about inviting South Alabama and then having to pull the invite because of some confusion with another team that was going to go. And I'll let you pick up the story from there.
Yeah, so on NIT men's basketball, their Twitter page, they released this statement, and it's basically, like Pat said, them apologizing to South Alabama, the athletic department, the players, and Richie Riley. He came out and said, a meaningless apology to the most meaningful group of players I've ever coached. What they did to us last night is inexcusable. These guys in our locker room don't deserve this, and it's sad your idea of making it right is a copy and paste apology.
Wow.
I will say NIT, their Twitter post, they did turn off all the comments, which typically isn't a good sign if you have to turn off your comments on a post like that.
Nope.
Good for Richie Riley. A meaningless apology to the most meaningful group of players I've ever coached. What they did to us last night was inexcusable. A copy and paste apology. Maybe AI wrote it.
I was about to say, can we run it through Chat GPT real quick?
We need to run it through like an AI, generator or whatever. See if it can pick it up.
If I'm Richie Riley, I think I'd take that team. I'd take money out of my own pocket, and we fly to an NIT venue. And we just sit there in the front row.
And watch the game.
Yeah, make signs. I'm sure they'd really appreciate that. And get your frustrations out of the way. I understand it. I don't blame him. South Alabama, man, they did a heck of a job this year. And just the fact that we had the potential. We got 4 teams in, but the number of teams that we could have had in. But 8 teams playing postseason basketball out of 10 that are eligible here in the state, that's awesome.
Well, if you feel good about one of those 4 teams making it to the national championship and cutting down the nets, then you're going to want to play the $1 million bracket challenge here at Jocks 94.5. Just pick a perfect bracket and win $1 million. If you pick 60 or more games correctly, you're going to win $10,000. Plus, one local winner with the best bracket here is going to score a $250 gift card to Twin Peaks. For more information and to make your picks in the $1 million bracket challenge, just go to jocksfm.com, click on the $1 million bracket tab, and you are good to go. And good luck from all of us here at Jocks 94.5.
We got the NBA tonight, and Conrad, he might be dialed into the NBA, but if you are jonesing for some college basketball, it returns tomorrow. But right now at Prize Picks, you can go ahead and you can look at some of the player projections for the NCAA Tournament. Already, Prize Picks, it is your way and a fun way to interact daily fantasy, and it's the best thing out there. Prize Picks, you download the app today, enter promo code WJOX, and when you do that and you set up your account, your first $5 play, win or lose, you get $50 kicked instantly back to your account. That's right, $5 instantly, win or lose on any play if you enter promo code WJOX. Prize Picks is a easy way to have fun, interact with your friends, or just go ahead and bankroll your entire tournament. Now, for the projections that they have later on this week, how about the SEC? Anderson Garcia, who I took in the more or less, Conrad, last week, and I'm trying to remember who Texas A&M was playing in that particular game, but he went more or less for Anderson Garcia, 16.5 points, rebounds, and assists combined.
Oh, okay. All combined? Yeah, I would probably go more on that one. He had 4 3-pointers against Texas last week.
I'm gonna go more on that as well. So that's one. So all we need is one more. And if you go more or less and we hit this one, then we're gonna win whatever we wagered. They got Janai Broome as a to be determined as far as the opponent, but right now he looks like he could be involved in one of those special plays.
Ooh, okay.
That they have, because they have him listed at 0.5 points, and unless there's some injury news that have not been made aware of, That is going to be a part of one of those. But let's go with tomorrow night, North Carolina. You're familiar with North Carolina now, right? You're studied up on them.
That's right.
RJ Davis, more or less 15.5 points.
I'm going to go more 15.5. Season on the line for North Carolina. He's been their best player for like 10 years now. Yeah.
All right. So we'll go more Anderson Garcia, 16.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. RJ Davis, more than 15.5 points versus San Diego State tomorrow night in the first round of the NCAA tournament. That is just an example of what you're going to get with Prize Picks. Download the app today. WJOX is your promo code. $50 instantly on your first $5 play, win or lose. We appreciate our friends at Prize Picks. We appreciate our friend Pat Smith. 5 questions we'll try to answer next on 3-Man Front. $146 here on 3-Man Front. It's been a busy show. We appreciate your interaction as always and appreciate our guests. Sanford Athletics Director, NCAA Tournament Selection Committee member Martin Newton joining us. Also, we talked to Nick Kelly, who covers the Alabama Crimson Tide, previewing the Tide's date with their first round opponent in Robert Morris, and then potentially setting up for a second round game with either Vanderbilt or St. Mary's. Nathan King from Auburn Undercover in this hour previewing Auburn heading up to Lexington to take on the winner of St. Francis and Alabama State, and then potentially a matchup with Louisville or Creighton. Pat has come up with questions. We'll try to answer them. This is what we call Pat Ponders.
Brought to you by Courtesy GMC and Trustful. Visit their online inventory at courtesybirmingham.com. Question number 1, plain and simple. Who was the bigger disappointment in Nashville? Auburn or Alabama?
I actually thought that Alabama would end up playing on Sunday. I thought that they would find a way to get by Florida. I did not expect Auburn to be there for whatever reason, whether it was the way that they were playing, incentive. But I thought Alabama, just based on what Nate Oates said prior to arriving there in Nashville. So I guess if I have to choose, it would be Alabama.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's Alabama. That was, if I'm not mistaken, the worst loss of the entire season from a point differential perspective. And like Pat said at the beginning of the game, I mean, you didn't walk away from any matchup there in Nashville and say, oh, well, one of those teams didn't look like they really were trying to win. Alabama was trying to win that basketball game, and they got absolutely slaughtered by Florida in the second half. So, yeah, I think the Auburn one is a little more understandable. Not to say that Alabama losing to Florida is not understandable, but to lose by 20 plus in that setting, especially after what you had just done to Kentucky the night before, that was a letdown for sure.
No, I'm with Landrum on this one. I didn't expect Auburn to be there on Sunday, but I'm with you. I think Alabama should have. It's probably Alabama.
Question number 2. Under the new NIT criteria, LSU and South Carolina was eligible for the NIT. Both turned down the opportunity. Now, UAB was invited and they accepted. If you're an LSU or South Carolina fan, are you glad they turned it down and put the basketballs up?
If I'm a South Carolina fan, I'm more dialed into the women's side anyways.
Mm-hmm.
LSU, maybe so, the same. LSU fans, you got baseball season going. Yeah, I don't think LSU fans, just got to clear it out.
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't know many people that really care at all about the NIT. And I think if you're a program like that, you're just trying to move on and get a head start on next season and try to have a Missouri-like turnaround in 2026.
Yeah, South Carolina, LSU, I'm watching the women's from now on.
All right, so see how the NIT's changed, though, because it used to be, it was kind of like bowl games, meaningless bowl games, that you had extra practices, you got to play more after your season would be seemingly done. But now with rosters and the turnovers that you get in rosters from year to year, it's not like, well, we got a young team, I wanted them to experience the postseason.
Correct.
There's a lot of those guys that aren't going to be there, but no, if I'm an LSU fan or a South Carolina fan, I'm good.
Nope.
Seen that team play enough this year.
Mm-hmm.
Question number 3. Molly posted a video on social media of her constructing a full bracket on her wall. What was or is a creative way you spend your selection Sundays?
Okay, well, so I don't do this anymore, but this is when I was growing up because now it's all digital for the most part. But back in my day, when we had to, you would print out the brackets and they wouldn't be filled out. You would print out the brackets before the selection show and then handwrite all the teams in there and go along as you would do that. Every year when I was younger, I would pick 10, 12 teams that I thought they could legitimately win the tournament. And I would fill out a bracket for every single one of those teams with them winning it and mix some things up along the way. I would then put the numbers 1 through 12 in a hat and I would pick it out and that would be my bracket for that tournament.
That's cool.
Because it would be, honor code with your friends and family, right? Oh, this is my bracket. And be like, well, you wrote it in pencil. Did you change it? And so that would be the way of saying, nope, this is the one bracket. This is my official.
So you put them all in a hat and then.
Well, yeah, like draw a number and whatever number I drew out would be.
That would be the team.
Bracket number 6. And that would be my official bracket for that tournament.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I used to manually write them in. And then I would do what you would do, Pat. And at some point, I would have a poster board or maybe something that was half the size of a poster board. And I would go in and I would draw all the lines and It was fun.
Well,
I
had
was
fun.
never great at it, though. My spacing was not always great.
Well, I had fun doing my tape bracket. But yeah, I would do what Conrad did. Just I would print them all out and then fill them in as they went.
How long did it take you legitimately to get because I know you said, didn't you were trying to get the spacing and everything correct. So I imagine it probably took
like 2 hours.
A while. Okay.
Yeah. The hardest part was the spacing because I didn't have like a ruler, like a yardstick, anything. So
Well, and I'm OCD, so if that was on my wall and it was
same,
crooked
yeah.
or something, that would drive
Have you guys ever thought about when you see these team shots and they're in their big, whatever, banquet ballroom and they go to the live feed and they're announced? Yay! And they're announced and the feed is still, the shot is still there and they know they're still on. But then when they announce who they're playing, then the reaction, they have no reaction. Are they coached up, like don't react in any way when your opponent's announced? Or do you think that's naturally like, man, we just got screwed. We got to play them?
I'm sure they were coached one way or another.
I thought it was funny because they did that with Michigan when they announced Michigan, and then whoever
Wisconsin?
was on the broadcast went, oh, why is Michigan? They're only a 5 seed. They just won the Big Ten tournament. I'd be embarrassed I'd be mad if I was Michigan and the players are just sitting there.
Or you
in
had
a dead
Wisconsin
stare,
who
like-
lost to Michigan and they go to that live shot and it's like, yeah, sorry guys, you guys just had to come in after losing your conference tournament championship game.
Yep.
But congratulations, you're 4 seed.
Yep.
3 seed.
All right, final question on this day. Today is the recognized death date of Ireland's patron saint and my namesake, St. Patrick. St. Patrick's Day is celebrated in more countries than any other national festival.
Ooh.
Not sure if you knew that or not.
I did not.
Reason to drink for people.
I was about to say, we know why.
So which of these have you done on March the 17th? Eaten corned beef and cabbage, drank a Guinness, or pinched someone of the opposite sex who is not wearing green?
All 3. My mom used to make the corned beef and cabbage. No. I was really disappointed when I realized it was corned beef and cabbage.
That doesn't sound good.
No,
sorry.
it's not.
Doesn't
It's
sound
not good. I like corned beef. I love a good Reuben. And I like cabbage. I like steamed cabbage by itself, but just together.
Not a good.
I was so disappointed as a kid walking up to the kitchen. It's like, oh, are you kidding? Like, but what am I going to eat? Well, you can eat this or you can go to bed hungry.
Yeah, I've never had that meal, and I don't plan on ever having that meal, quite frankly. But yeah, I've done the other 2. I've had Guinness. To be fair, that would traditionally today would be the only time I would drink Guinness. Nothing against, it's just a little heavy.
It's real heavy.
Yeah.
And and then I mean everybody as a kid, you kind of go overboard with the, oh, it's an excuse to pinch people, and yeah, we all.
So
did
you had
that.
pinched someone of the opposite sex?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, and plus when you're in elementary school, it's like, oh, I have a crush on that person.
Oh.
Well, that kind of thing.
The pinching thing, though, I don't like to get pinched.
I don't either. No, I've never had corned beef and cabbage. I've never drank a Guinness on St. Patrick's Day, but I have pinched. I mean, I pinched Justin this morning, remember? He wasn't wearing green. Pinched him on the arm.
Well, Molly, now you're going to have to stay after work and do some training.
Oh. Well, it's his fault for not wearing green.
Pat, I'll say this. That is a shade of green, but you are teetering on that line of...
It's more seafoam.
Of more of a seafoamy pastel
Good
Easter
pull there,
egg.
Molly. That's a good shade.
It doesn't matter. My name's Patrick. It doesn't matter.
That's
Yes, it
not
does.
how that
Yeah, it
works.
is. It
That's
does
not how
work
it
that
works.
way.
Not how
You
that
are
works.
not
Yes, it
a
does.
citizen of Ireland. Doesn't count. Doesn't carry over.
It's in my blood.
Me too.
He was playing it real close today. That was the first thing I noticed when I walked in, because I had in my mind.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because I almost walked out without green on, and then I had to put on my green pants. And
You're close. You're close,
here.
Patrick.
But my name's Patrick. It's different. No, it's not.
You can do a jig.
Another reason why I did not vote for you for Employee of the Month.
Well, I still won, didn't I?
Look how fast I can peel this potato.
That's today's Pat Ponders, brought to you by Courtesy GMC in Trussville. Get by and see them right off of I-459 exit 32 in Trussville.
Josh says all it takes is for Auburn to win by 20 plus in the first round. I think they'll be right back on track. I'll take this season over going 30-0 against level competition. Thank you, Josh, in Huntsville. And speaking of the day being happy, St. Patty's Day. Have any of y'all ever seen the John Wayne movie, The Quiet Man? If not, I highly recommend it. One of my top 5 movies of all time. Thank you, Fat Joe. I've not seen it. I don't know if that's on the viewing menu for tonight. All of us to all of you, thanks for joining us live from Social Taco in Homewood. Tomorrow, coming up next, Paul Feinbaum. Plenty to talk about. 14 teams from the best conference in the land booking their trip to March Madness.